But before I go live?
I don't
Oh,
know. Whenever you want.
I didn't even mean to click it, but I
Oh,
just clicked it.
hi,
Oh, it's not like
everybody.
now we're live.
Hi, everybody.
We got half of your hi everybody, and now we got the full version of it.
I actually only said everybody. Hi, everybody.
Well, what is up, Brian? Nice to see you. Haven't really
So,
talked. Yeah.
yeah, it's so great to see you. We don't talk. This
Yeah,
is this is the only communication.
it's sad. Like we do a lot of like chatting on Discord,
It's actually
but
not me. That's my virtual assistant,
oh, okay, I see.
who
Well, your virtual
I've given our years of chat transcripts to catch up on. And they took, a couple months to work through them and really find my voice and our relationship. And it sounds like they're crushing it.
I mean, I would probably have wanted to know that before taking their fantasy advice. like, like what is their credentials?
Oh no, I just realized they could replace me now.
You told me that I should drop Tristan Jarry, and I did, and he had a great game today. But now you don't have to blame it on yourself. You could blame it on the virtual assistant.
Exactly. But the things that I got exactly right were the virtual, or that was me.
Those
I
are you.
mean,
Yeah, of
those are
course.
me.
All right. Well, hi,
How's
everyone.
it?
Thanks. Yeah, sorry. What's
Yeah.
up?
I was just gonna say, how's everybody doing tonight? Thanks for joining the live show, Josh, Shams. Always nice to see you guys.
Yeah, so we're going to get started in just a sec. Before we do, just a quick plea to anyone who hasn't watched a live show before. We appreciate you watching live on YouTube. It happens to be that the way that we get judged for how successful the podcast is based on like audio downloads. So we definitely wouldn't mind if you could not only watch on YouTube, but also go and like subscribe on your like iTunes or Spotify or wherever. I use Pocket Casts personally. It's a great Android podcast app. It's an unpaid sponsorship right there. But yeah, so if you wouldn't mind giving us the DLs along with your YouTube view, we wouldn't say no. But okay, Brian, how about we start the recording now? Imagine if we like didn't record. Like, what if we just forgot? You think
Well,
that's ever happened?
we could release the YouTube
Oh yeah, that's true.
or the
Okay.
Zoom. It's actually recorded three different ways. There's a lot of redundancies in place.
Yeah, well, the Zoom isn't recording yet, but I will start
Should
recording it. Yeah.
At what point do we turn any or all of our three recordings into NFTs?
If someone wants to buy them, we can do that.
Yeah.
Isn't that just a matter of adding some token to it, and then that's it?
Yeah, I think that's it.
Or we could even do 100, right? Like we could do all 100 versions of this episode. I mean, hey, if someone wants it, someone could own the first ever episode of Keeping Karlsson.
Oh
I
yeah.
wonder which episode would go for the most money. Like, would it be episode 1 because it's like the rookie card, or would it be like some episode that was like the best one, which is definitely
nobody
not the
knows
first one.
but nobody knows what the best one is.
Maybe the first Schmore goalies board when we thought we knew about goalies.
Maybe the first time we played Sustainable or Fleeting.
Oh yeah, which we're kind of doing. What are you eating? Stop that. We're live here. Stop eating M&Ms. Okay, let's start.
I shouldn't have started crunching them into the microphone. Sorry.
All right, so let's start the recording now. You ready to go?
Yeah.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, record.
Crunch, crunch.
Haha. You're so funny. Recording. I was like hanging out with my niece today, who's like 4 or 5. I don't know. I should probably know. But like,
do you even know her name, Elon?
So it's like, first of all, on one hand, she's like very not funny, and she thinks she's funny, which I guess is a common thing with kids. But I'll take it because she thinks I'm so funny, saying like the dumbest stuff. I don't even have to work hard at all, and I've got her like rolling on the floor laughing. Like I just said, I'm Auntie Elon, and Dina is Uncle Dina, and that killed her. Like it was it. She was laughing about it for so long, telling her parents about it. I should be a child comedian. Does that exist?
Yeah, I think they're called clowns.
Mason's just offered episode 1 for $10. Okay, Mason, how about this? You have to pay $10 and you have to teach us how to sell it to you for $10, and then we will do that deal. What about our tweets? Maybe don't people sell their tweets now?
Yeah.
So we have some good tweets. Brian's been tweeting a lot about
everything.
Brian's been tweeting. You could buy all of Brian's rage about Shane Gostisbehere.
I'll sell the Gostisbehere collection all together, bulk purchase.
And it's like, who cares that much about Shane? I assume it's because you have him on one of your fantasy teams, and so you're not happy that he's getting.
But like this is a years-long thing, and like we'd given up on him, and then like there was a ray of sunshine.
All right, we're gonna talk about it on the show. We don't need to.
Are we? I don't even think he's on the show.
Yeah, I put him on here. I remember writing like, Brian, if you want, now here's your. I was like, here's your opportunity to rant about Goss's Fair if you'd like.
All right, sure.
So I don't want you to waste it. It's just so good. I'm not saying I don't want to hear it now. It's just I don't want you to waste the goods.
It wouldn't have been better. This was the best shot I had.
Okay.
And it's over now.
So then you could just say no. You could say, I agree with AV. He probably knows what he's doing.
Go back and listen to the first 2 minutes of the YouTube show. And I was just about to get into it.
All right. So let's get going, I guess. We've got no ads today. Oh, no, we do. We have that regular MyBookie ad, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to send it to me? I could try doing it this week if you want to mix it up.
Well, you have access to it. It's not
doc. Linked. Where in the doc? Oh, there it is.
I just tossed it into a place that might be 30 minutes.
I'm gonna just look up really quickly. What are some things? I feel like it's fun to like say a thing, you know, like something that you can bet on. Like, do they have like any like cup odds at the moment? I wish this website. Well, I guess I shouldn't say anything. It would be nice if it was a little easier to find.
Why? Like, can you not just find their odds?
NHL
live odds.
I don't want the live odds. I was thinking more like a futures.
You want like futures.
I can't find any. Maybe they just don't have any right now.
Here, I think I found them.
Ooh.
I'll send you a link.
Okay, sorry everyone, but this is interesting, right? So who would you? Let's say in the chat, who's the right now Stanley Cup favorite in your minds? I'm going Tampa. Curious to see what the odds are. Oh, here it is. Yeah. Okay, I just had to scroll. I had that exact page open. I just hadn't scrolled down. Okay, cool.
There's a team you're bringing up and asking if they're for real later in the show. And
perfect. No, let's not spoil it. Let's do that, and then let's get the ad in right around there. How far down is that?
It's pretty late in the show.
All right, so then we'll hint at it. We'll say in the ad we'll hint at it.
Plus 1,300 good.
That's 13-1 odds, basically. It's not great. Like 16 teams make the playoffs. So like,
they're actually have top 5 odds right now. Why is Nashville's not? Okay.
All right, so we'll get to this. Okay. All right. I'm ready to start. So 755.
How about you want me to read it and then you can engage with it?
Sure. Sounds good. Perfect.
Okay.
All right. Oh, I need a joke. Podcast where that. Okay. Yes.
Where we're always on a hot streak.
I was thinking more like I could reference how I actually have Erik Karlsson today. So it's a rare time where I could go back to the old catchphrase.
Go for it.
Yes! Welcome everybody to another episode of the Keeping Karlsson Fantasy Hockey Podcast, the longest running fantasy hockey podcast in the world, hosted by two guys, one of whom currently has Erik Karlsson on their cupful team. I am your host, Elon Dubrovsky, and with me, as always, the fantasy hockey robot, the poop-bot prognostication, the IPP MVP, Brian Com.
Hello, Elon. Hello, everybody. And just to clarify, that person with Erik Karlsson on their roster is you. And Elon, you actually have a bit of splaining to do on so every time there's a trade that happens in the Cupful, you just traded for Erik Karlsson. Every time there's a trade that happens, we have a Discord channel where people can choose which side won. And so you traded John Tavares for return of Timo Meier and Erik Karlsson. And right now, out of 84% of respondents say Tavares won the deal. 8% said you, and 8% said it was even. And 8% is one person. So only one person thinks you won the deal. One person thinks it was even. So you have like a couple pity votes in there. Why? Why did you do this?
I'm an idiot, clearly. But no, the real reason is because the Cupful Tier 1 is hard. And I actually was leading the whole division in points for going into this week, but yet I had a 5-3 record, and I went up against the juggernaut, that's Jeff Good's team, and he and Connor McDavid, who we're going to talk about first on the show, like utterly destroyed me. So now I'm 5-4, and I'm looking at my competition, looking at the remaining 3 weeks. I need to win the next 3 weeks or I'm out. And next week, John Tavares only plays Thursday and Saturday, and those are both busy days. So by dropping or like dumping Tavares and getting 2 San Jose guys who play 3 times, I'm gaining like a whole bunch of games. So for me, it was just a straight up, like, I think that this will help me next week and I'll regret it in the future. But like, I'm going to let future Elon deal with that, because I think if I lose next week against Ben from short shifts, I think I'm out. So, lucky for epic mealtime for, one sec.
It's Tom.
Tom, right. Yeah. Lucky for Tom Crowhurst, who got a good deal from me. I tried to talk to some other people about potentially trading Tavares, but yeah, we'll see how it works out. But hey, I like Erik Karlsson. Timo Meier's having a good year. And to be honest, John Tavares, he's great for sure. Like, I don't want to say anything bad about him, but as we'll talk about later in the show, he's not getting like the best deployment. He's not even on the top power play currently. So it's not like he's like as amazing of an asset as he was in previous years. So obviously after this week, I'd prefer to have him over Meier and Karlsson. But yeah, that's what I did. Thanks for bringing it up.
They actually did briefly load the top power play last game for Toronto on Saturday night. So they had Marner, Matthews, Nylander, and Tavares all on the ice together. For your sake, I hope that doesn't happen too much more often. I want you to feel good and happy with your decision.
I mean, I don't care. Like, I want Tom to have a win-win. Like, if he could win the trade and I could win next week, I'll be very happy with that. Also in the cupful, not that I'm sure people don't care about this, like get to the fantasy analysis already, but like a couple like top 6 teams in tier 1 make the playoffs. Everyone else is getting relegated. So I just need to make the playoffs and I'll figure out from there. Oh, okay. Let's get into the content. Before we do though, let's mention that we are presented by DobberHockey.com, the #1 fantasy hockey website in the world. I love Dobber Hockey. Great articles, the ramblings. So people like just recently, like I referenced the ramblings and someone was like, oh yeah, I forgot about those. Like what? Like every single day you're getting a recap of all the fantasy implications of everything that happened. Plus the tools at Frozen Tools are amazing. So check it out, dobberhockey.com. And speaking of frozen tools, Brian, I think we've got a fun plan for this week's episode. There's a really cool feature on Frozen Tools, which is created by Eric Doust, where you could get a list of like the hottest and coldest players in the league. And it's like, I guess, a secret algorithm. Like, I don't even know exactly how it's decided, but it's a lot of just like, it's not like all in the last 10 games. It's like some, I guess, algorithms that's deciding, okay, this person has 18 points in his last 14. So he's the #1 hottest. This person has 5 points in his last 3. So it's the #2 hottest. So however it is, the players get ranked by who's on hot streaks. And I was just thinking, Brian, we could go through the top 20 hot players according to Frozen Tools and play a little sustainable or fleeting thing, discuss if we think they're going to stay this hot or somewhat as hot, and if they should be must owns across the league, or if these are players that are about to fall off big time.
Sustainable or fleeting is a Keeping Karlsson classic. And Elon, I can't wait to begin this latest edition of it. Oh, that was so lame, but let's go anyway. Was I convincing?
Well, I'll just take it again then.
Okay.
I don't really like saying, I know that you're big on like the self-effacing comments,
okay.
But
all right. Okay. Sustainable or fleeting, a Keeping Karlsson classic. I am always up for several rounds of this on the show tonight. So let's get started.
All right. So like I said, we are going to start with Connor McDavid, the #1 ranked hot player according to Frozen Tools. This was yesterday, by the way. So it gets updated every single day in case anyone's going to like tweet at us and be like, actually Connor McDavid's #2 now on the list. I don't know. Okay. But Connor McDavid yesterday was #1 and for good reason. He had a goal and an assist in the game versus the Jets, bringing him to 20 points in his last 9 games. Insane, right? Okay. 60 points in 34 games on the season. So that works out to 1.76 points per game, which has Connor McDavid at 145-82 game pace. If you actually work out his pace for just this season, the 56 game season, it's like just shy of him hitting 100 points. So that's going to be a fun race to watch, right? To see if Connor McDavid actually hit 100 points in this 56 game season. He's amazing. I don't even know really what to ask about him. I'm like, oh, do you think he's going to hit 100 points? I don't know if it's worth discussing that. I will say, though, that the lines at Edmonton are kind of interesting. Kyler Yamamoto has been out with an upper body injury, so the Oilers have gone back to that classic line of McDavid, Nugent Hopkins, and Puljujarvi. And Puljujarvi had an assist in that 4-2 win over Winnipeg on Saturday. He also had a goal and an assist a couple games back versus Calgary. Brian, you know me, as always, I'm skeptical that it'll last, but I'd be looking to grab Puljujarvi at least for next week. He's got a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday schedule. So great schedule, great line. He even saw some time on the top power play. How can you not want Puljujarvi at least for a stream?
For sure. You should stream in Puljujarvi. We've been talking about him all season long as someone who is in the position he's in, often on the top line in Edmonton, since he worked his way up there after the first, what did it take, a month or so of the season? And while the points haven't come consistently, He looks good there in just about every way you want to measure, except on the score sheet. So maybe it's not all going to come this season, but from everything I see and everything I hear from my most trusted Edmonton sources, aka the people I follow on Twitter who are Edmonton Oilers fans that I really do trust. Like they've earned my trust. They have credibility. Puljujarvi is legit, and so could go on a run at any moment by virtue of where he is in the lineup and the fact that I don't think he's just coattail riding. I'm not sure how much, again, that this season that's going to translate to consistent production, but I definitely think that there's something there with Puljujarvi and something incredibly streamable when a schedule benefits you. And playing with McDavid, I mean, we've streamed much worse players playing with McDavid than Jesse Puljujarvi. By the way, Connor McDavid, I don't just want to skim past him. He's upped his game this season. He has career high 5-on-5 scoring rates, and there's nothing unsustainable behind those or his power play numbers, which is wild because Connor McDavid is on a 144 point full season pace. We had this conversation, maybe it was a month ago already now, about how McDavid is just going crazy and it all looks good. And nothing's changed. It's amazing. His shooting and expected goal rates are back up to career highs that he set up back in his sophomore season. And one fun fact about this season for McDavid, this is his first shot share positive season in 3 years, believe it or not. So way to go, Connor. Way to get back on the plus side of the Corsi battle and score 144 points over 82 games while you're at it. Wow.
I think he's pretty good. Okay, so good job for the Oilers making the right choice with that number one pick way back when in 2015, I think it was. Okay, so Brian, if I may, and I know this is like a controversial thing to say around you, but Mike Smith had a good game on Saturday. He stopped 29 of 31 shots in the win. His record is now 11-3, and he has a .921 save percentage on the season. So I know that like we've talked about before how Mike Smith has like gone on little runs before and he never keep it up. But I'm wondering if maybe you have some newfound love for Mike Smith, like you recently found for the injured Jonathan Bernier, right? Like you used to always tell me how Bernier is not very good. And then over the past couple months, or at least the last month, you've totally switched. You're like, Jonathan Bernier is great. You should add him in every league. It's too bad that he got injured right as I took your advice and added him in a couple of leagues. But now is Mike Smith going to be the new Jonathan Bernier? Are you going to be a Mike Smith convert based on what he's done for us this season?
No, because Mike Smith hasn't been good for the last couple of years. While Jonathan Bernier has been serviceable, at least, Mike Smith has not been. But what can I say about his play now other than he's on a classic Mike Smith heater? We've seen this before. He goes crazy hot and it can last a few weeks before it all comes crashing down. I'm not buying in that Mike Smith is a good goalie. I am buying in that Mike Smith is a hot goalie. And when a player's running hot, you might as well go for it, so long as you are bracing yourself for the eventual crash. Okay, so Brian's calling for the crash. Hey, it's not bad news, though, that if Connor McDavid's winning the Corsi battles, that just means Edmonton's maybe a better team than they've been in the past. So that could only help Mike Smith. You know, like a Minnesota goalie, how you always say they're better protected. So even if they're not as great a goalie, they can still put up better fantasy numbers. I don't know. I feel like what you're saying is kind of like telling people if you have Mike Smith, like trade him now because the crash is imminent. No, that's not even what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
I mean, so, like if you can trade him for someone really great, do it. But goalies are weird, and you might as well just ride it out until he burns out. Like this is what he does. Eventually, I think he's going to be a free agent by the end of your regular season. We'll see if I'm wrong, but if he does keep it up between now till the end of the year, that will be the longest run of fantasy relevance that Mike Smith has put up in a long time. Like I can't say again, well, I can, I'm about to, how bad he's been for a couple of years. He's a goalie clearly in decline who has found a little bit of magic in, I don't know. I was about to say what I hope is his last season because I'm tired of talking about Mike Smith and all this stuff. He's old already. He's done.
I mean, clearly not.
Yeah, clearly not. Exactly.
All right. So yeah, I'm not going to disagree. I'm not even going to try to like argue with you about goalies because it's so hard to predict, but it's been nice for anyone who grabbed Mike Smith as a free agent when he came off the IR at the start of the year. And now you're getting, 11 wins in the last 14 games. Like I said, okay. Other Oilers, by the way, on this list on Frozen Tools for the hottest players, Tyson Barrie slots in at number 5 with 12 points in his last 8 games. Leon Draisaitl slots in right after him at number 6, 16 points in his last 10 games. So all the Oilers you expect it to be good have been great.
Yeah. That's really nice. Tyson Barrie, by the way, on a 72-point pace, including 34 power play points, pacing for it. Those numbers are in line with Barrie's best season that he had in Colorado back in 2017-18. Funny enough, that season and this season feature Barrie's two highest on ice shooting percentages of his career. This year, he also has this little jump in secondary assists at 5-on-5. So what I'm saying is that Tyson Barrie is having himself a great season. Good for him. That 72-point pace probably isn't something you want to really commit to if you're going to try and project him going forward for the rest of the year or beyond. But it's still like once he regresses, he's still going to be doing just fine. And really, really curious to see what his payday looks like at the end of this season. How many teams are going to be bought in on him being this amazing, hard to find power play quarterback, super offensive defenseman, or just if everybody's still gonna be like, yeah, but you still can't play great defense. So I'm very curious to see what the market is going to have to say about Tyson Barrie.
Yeah, I mean, all I know is he made a very smart career decision deciding to sign with the Oilers for this 1-year deal. I feel like he's probably calling up Taylor Hall and being like, you dummy, you should have come to Edmonton. Or maybe like they only had room to sign one. So like while Taylor Hall made a terrible career decision and now he looks terrible in Buffalo, Tyson Barrie is loving life over on the Oilers. All right, so let's go to number 2 on this list of Frozen Tools, hottest players right now currently in the NHL, and it is, I'm so excited to say this, Brian, it's Mika Zibanejad. It's number 2. This is not just me deciding, oh, I just want to figure out a way to shoehorn Mika Zibanejad onto the show. He's number 2 on the list. He had a goal and an assist in the 3-1 win over Washington on Saturday, bringing him to 10 points in his last 5 games. And it's been a weird 5 games, right? There was a 2-assist game, then nothing, then that crazy 3-goal, 3-assist game, then nothing, and then that goal and assist game versus Washington that I just said. I'm also loving the 3 and 4 shot on goal games lately, the 21 and a half plus minutes in his last couple of games. Like I actually special guested, as I'm sure you heard, on the short shifts on Thursday, and Lewis asked me if Mika is back to the old Mika, and I was kind of hedging. I was saying like I would hold on to him. Like I don't think that he's worth like selling high on, quote unquote, but I doubt he's like as good as last year just because of one good game. But I don't know. I'm starting to feel like maybe I was wrong. Maybe I should have gone harder and just been like, no, Mika's back because he's looking really good over this last week.
I know you're excited, and every Zibanejad manager should be. Let yourself get excited and feel good about this run that Zibanejad is on.
For the next 1 minute before Brian tells you not to.
No, I'm not even going to knock him down a whole lot. I will say, sure, okay, I'll just skip to that part then. In his last 14, while he's been on this run, Zibanejad at 5-on-5 has a 90% IPP, shooting 20%, which like, okay, they're high, but they're not. I mean, it doesn't get much higher, but I'm just saying, like, I still believe that even when regression hits, he's still going to be doing well because, well, one thing you said, Elon, was those minutes are coming back. He's seeing just fewer than 14 minutes a night over these last 14 days. And if you look at the whole season, he's still averaging barely 13 minutes a night on the whole year, like counting the entire season before these last 2 weeks.
13 minutes a night? You mean even strength, right?
Yeah, sorry, at even strength. So this season has gone really sideways for him. Like his ice time has just been miserable. And now, like whether that's because of his capacity, like health-wise to play, or what his coach was deciding, or some other factor, it's nice to see that he's got those 5-on-5 minutes back. Another positive sign that you mentioned, Elon, Zibanejad's shots are back, and their danger level is also ticking upwards. In February, Zibanejad was on a stretch where he had just 19 shots in 10 games. In his last 8 games, though, he has 29 shots, and that's back in that 3.5 to 4 shot per game territory that we're so happy to see Zibanejad in last year. So there's lots of positive signs here. I'm not sure he's 100% back to the level you drafted him hoping for him to be at, but Zibanejad is at least somewhere on the road towards it, which is a big, big win for anyone like you, Elon, who's just been waiting on him all season. And boy, if he can finally pick it up, if you've hung in there with Zibanejad on your roster and he's clicking just at the time you need him most, you're going to be in real good shape if you've been surviving up until now. And then you have even like a 70 to 80% Zibanejad going for you.
Yeah, I mean, so I famously turned down an offer for Pedersen and then had that offer come back to me again. And I turned it down again. And I felt really dumb for a while. But now Pedersen, obviously, it doesn't count because Pedersen's injured now. And I couldn't have predicted that. But obviously, right now, I'm very happy that I held on to Zibanejad in the cupful. Okay, so other Rangers on this list are Temi Panarin, ranking number 7 in the hottest players at 10 points in his last 7 games. Pavel Buchenevich over at 13. He has 15 points in his last 10 games. He also had a goal and assist on Saturday playing with Zibanejad, though he's a little bit worse because he's not on the top power play like Mika is. But Buchenevich is someone who's as a free agent in a lot of my leagues a few months ago, like even maybe 1 month ago. And I actually added him a couple of times in one league and kept adding him and dropping him. I remember a friend of mine was making fun of me, being like, man, you're always just adding and dropping Buchenevich. And man, I made a mistake that last time I dropped him because he is super amazing now. Okay, Brian, so should I go to number 3 on the list?
Well, I was going to comment quickly on Buchenevich before you did.
Please.
Like in his last 14 days, he's also got a 90% IBP like Zibanejad, and his shooting percentage is even higher at 25%. So like Zibanejad, seeing a lot of friendly variance at 5-on-5. That said, I'm not about to say sell high quickly on Buchenevich while you can. I still think he's for real. Remember all the time we spent, Elon, thinking Buchenevich is for real and just waiting for him or waiting for his coach to give him a better opportunity than he'd gotten to that point. He used to get on the top line randomly for 1 or 2 games, get bumped maybe before a game even ended at an inconsistent power play role. And now that's all there for Buchenevich. So maybe he's not a point per game guy, but I think 65 points is a safe starting point for him to be projected for the rest of the season. And especially when you compare it to him being a 55-point guy with a lot less opportunity last season, I would start at 65 rest of season. I'd be open to him being a mid 70-point pace the rest of the year. He just seems really, really good. And he's finally sticking in a great place in the lineup.
Yeah, it's like you've been a big fan of Buchenevich for years and years, so you must really love to see him breaking out like this, having a great time on that line with Zibanejad and Kreider. Okay, next up, number 3 on Frozen Tools' most hot NHL players, we've got Mark Stone and the number 4, Max Pacioretty. So a couple of Golden Knights. Why'd you laugh there? Just like, was that too shock jock for your liking?
Well, I love the intro each time. Also, it came to me, it's not why I laughed, but it came to me after that the superlative for most hot, there's actually a word for that. It's hottest.
Oh, I apologize, Brian. What do you say? The superlative, not superlative? I like how you're correcting me. Then you make up a word pronunciation that no one uses.
I just didn't want to make you feel too bad about yourself.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, so yeah, Mark Stone, 18 points in his last 10 games. That's going into today. So the Golden Knights are actually playing right now. They're in the third period. They're getting shut out 2-0 by LA. So that's surprising. Good job, Cal Peterson, so far. Okay, so Mark Stone, 18 points in his last 10. Max Pacioretty, 9 points in his last 5. Though we've got breaking news on Max Pacioretty because he's not in the lineup today for the Golden Knights. I don't even know if you saw that, Brian, but apparently he was held out, kind of like a last minute thing. I wasn't even able to move him out of my roster on one of my leagues where I have him. So it was very frustrating. But yeah, he has a lower body injury. And I guess we don't know anything right now. So definitely once you listen to this episode, I'd probably pause the episode and go check out NBC Sports Edge, formerly known as Roto World, and see if there's any updates on Max Pacioretty. But before the injury, anyways, he was hot. So was Mark Stone. It's pretty wild that Pacioretty, by the way, was a 50-point guy for a couple seasons before breaking out for that 76-point pace last year, only to now blow that number out of the water this season with 30 points in 28 games so far. That's an 88-point pace. He's currently ranked 8th in our cupful league scoring. So that's, mostly focused on goals and assists and but also really benefiting from his shots. So yeah, Pacioretty, a great steal in drafts this year. Because I think if anything, you were thinking, okay, maybe he'll stick at that 76-point pace, probably even regress a little bit. But I don't know if anyone was expecting him to jump up again. Maybe you could correct me if I'm wrong and you were thinking that. Of one other person that's really been benefiting from playing with these two, Stone and Pacioretty, is Chandler Stevenson, who was on a run of 9 points in 8 games before he missed a couple of games with an undisclosed injury. Then he's back. Of course, Pacioretty's out of the lineup, so that line is changing. But still, Chandler Stevenson only 22% rostered on Yahoo. He's 100% rostered in the cupful. But in other non keeping Karlsson leagues, you could probably find Chandler Stevenson in your free. You can probably find Chandler Stevenson in your free agent list. I got to admit, Brian, I was wrong about this guy. Going into the season, I figured it would be Cody Glass probably taking a top 6 C spot. And I thought even if Stevenson was there, he wouldn't do anything with it, because last year he also had a run of being in a good spot but never really produced. But Stevenson's up to a 57-point in 82 game pace and rising right now. That's before today. Do you think that Chandler Stevenson can keep this up rest of the way if he sticks playing with Stone and Pacioretty?
Yeah, I do. He can't be ignored at this point. Can you believe we've been through this before when we talked about Chandler Stevenson, but Vegas got a first line center for their purposes. Like, he's not a first line center on any team, but he's the right complementary piece. Clearly, if we Stone and Pacioretty, they got him for basically free. They spent a 5th rounder on him. And like, for an expansion team, we've gone through this before too, but they've assembled their whole first line through acquisitions, right? Mark Stone, they traded Eric Brandstrom for the centerpiece anyway. The centerpiece for Pacioretty was Nick Suzuki, and Chandler Stevenson, a 5th rounder. So if you can trade a deep pick and 2 prospects for one of the best first lines in the league, I say you do it. So way to go, Vegas, for knowing maybe that you don't need a stud top line center. If you have Max Pacioretty and Mark Stone, you need a guy who can do the right things for them in those contexts, win a few draws. So yeah, and that's why I like Chandler Stevenson there. He's kind of like a boring fantasy roster because, you know, he doesn't fill a whole lot of categories. And when he's not in on those goals, he's not in on a whole lot. But he's also can't be forgotten with the production he's put up consistently this season. And you mentioned Pacioretty, Elon, and I just want to remind people that we went deep into Pacioretty's season last year. And the TLDR of it is that Pacioretty basically reinvented his game to reach career highs at age 31 in his 2nd year in Vegas. And now Pacioretty has maintained those highs this year, right? The big question was, okay, he reinvented himself at 31. Is it actually something he can keep up? And the answer, based on the data so far this season, is yes. Pacioretty has been able to sustain that crazy year where he reinvented himself. And I really do believe nearly everything I see from Pacioretty this year, the difference between last year's 76-point pace and this year's 88-point pace for him, though, is in his on-ice shooting percentage, which was 8.5% last year, 12% this year. Maybe somewhere in the middle of those two numbers is reasonable. So that's a point per game player who, by the way, only has 5 power play points in 28 games, which isn't obscenely low, but it's low. Like, I would, if you asked me to guess over under 6 power play points for Max Pacioretty this year, I would have taken the over before I looked that up. So, considering that maybe he'll get another extra couple power play points and maybe a couple fewer of the shots taken while he's on the ice are going to go in, I think that washes out to still being able to expect about an 80-point pace for Max Pacioretty the rest of the season. So long as he's healthy, get well soon, Max.
Yeah, and if anyone's curious, with Pacioretty out of the lineup today was Alex Tuck, who jumped up to play with Stevenson and Mark Stones. That'd be great for Tuck, but obviously let's wait and see what happens. Also, they're losing. They're getting shut out right now, so you could imagine maybe the lines would get shaken up if Pacioretty's out longer term. By the way, welcome back Robin Lehner, who came back after missing all those games with a concussion, stopped 23 of 25 in the win over LA on Friday. Marc-Andre Fleury in the net today, and it's definitely not his fault that the Golden Knights are losing. He's having a great game himself. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the starts will be allocated the rest of the way. I was pontificating, I think it was just on the Short Shift show, that I feel like it's going to be a 50-50 thing, which isn't great for Fleury, but it's great for the Golden Knights, who now have these 2 amazing goalies to go into their playoff run.
Very good news for the Golden Knights. And this is their plan, right? Okay. If you ask Fleury's agent, the plan was to, kill him so Robin Lehner could play. But I think in the best case scenario, now that Vegas is stuck with both these guys, quote unquote stuck, because I'm pretty sure they did want to offload Fleury, if they can have them both going, that's great news come the playoffs. And I think that's why we're still, even though Fleury has been so great, I think it still could go 50-50 between Lehner and Fleury the rest of the season. Right now, I would say 60-40 Fleury until the door maybe opens a little bit for Lehner. And it could swing back the other way to be 60-40 for Lehner too. I just expect the Vegas goaltending situation to have some very possible fluidity, which is really not staking a claim to anything at all. I just think that the Golden Knights are going to want both their goalies to have gotten enough games in recently when the playoffs do roll around.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think that is a claim to make. It's like, don't get confident with goalie starts in Vegas because it might jump around a lot for the rest of the year.
Thank you.
You're doing a great job. Okay, so also on this Frozen Tools list for Vegas, we've got Shea Theodore slotting in at number 11, 9 points in his last 6 games. Again, going into today where it looks like he might get shut out. By the way, did get shut out? He's probably going to have a huge finish to the season, right? Like Pietrangelo's on the long-term IR, so Theodore's going to get all the offensive deployment, and he's clearly enjoying that opportunity very much. By the way, Brian, I believe we made a bet at some point on Alec Martinez after he got traded to Vegas. If you recall, last season, he gets traded to Vegas at the deadline. He went on a great run. I was like drooling about him, like, oh man, this is great. Like Martinez now on this offensive team. I think he's going to be great, like moving into next year. And so far, like he is looking really great. He's having an amazing season. He has 16 points in 28 games. And he's not even necessarily supposed to be like an offensive guy on this team. Like I think he's supposed to be a responsible defensive player. He's always been great in fantasy for all of his blocks. But this season, like I said, 16 points in 28 games. It's a 47-point pace if he were to play 82 games. That's after a 2-assist game versus LA on Friday. Brian, do you think that Martinez can keep this up? And is it like the case that Pietrangelo being out gives him a boost as well, just because there's, more offense that needs to go to more defense? But I guess regardless, I'm just curious to know how much you believe in what we've seen from Martinez so far.
That's an interesting take that Martinez benefits from Pietrangelo. Whoa. That's an interesting take that Martinez benefits from Pietrangelo being out. I'm not sure if I buy it, but there's no denying that either way, Alec Martinez is having a good season. Yes, we did make a bet about this. We set the over-under at 39.5 points for Alec Martinez this season in an 82 game, like over an 82 game pace. And for the record, his career high point pace was 39 points and was mid 30s when Martinez was with the Kings for their cup winning heyday. So I don't think it was an awful bet to make. Obviously, I still don't. Like, I'm not regretting it. I can look back at the numbers. Like, yeah, I see why I made this. I know.
Well, yeah.
I know he moved to Vegas and the situation was different, but even I guess he was never like those Kings teams he played for were super defensive. So there was less offensive opportunity. Yeah. Alec Martinez has as many power play points as Max Pacioretti this season, by the way. So that's helped him in half the amount of power play minutes. His on-ice shooting percentage is also around 11%, which is high. I guess those are both reasons why I think Alec Martinez has overperformed some to this point. But I think you look like you're in pretty good shape over the rest of the season to win this bet. You need him to get to 27 points over 56 games. So he needs 11 more points in the remaining 28 games. I think I'm still in this bet, but barely. That would mean, less than a point per game. That would mean less than a half point per game pace the rest of the way, which seems like I wouldn't take that bet if you asked me today.
Right.
So I think you're going to win this one, but I'm holding out hope that my pride they can still at least be close.
Okay, well, I think most people just care about that. The fact that you're saying you do think it's fleeting, and so maybe he won't keep this up. But either way, you didn't draft him as a 47-point guy, or you didn't add him to be this. So this is a bonus with the peripherals that you're getting. So yeah, great season and great acquisition in fantasy. Alec Martinez. Brian, what do you have a better chance in winning, this bet or the Evgeny Dadonov, 50-point pace moving forward bet? He got 2 points in those first 2 games after he made that bet. Now it's like 4 pointless games in a row. I'm waiting for another 5 before you just call this.
Yeah. Okay. I think I have a better chance of winning the Dadonov bet. I really do. Although Alec Martinez, after today's game, assuming that it ends without him getting a point, down to a 45-point pace. Oh, no. So, things change quickly.
That's true.
Okay, but that's still really great for anybody who has them on their roster. I think rest of season, it's still safe to expect a 40-ish point pace would be nice from Martinez. Could be as low as 35 points. But yeah, you keep him on your roster.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, 2 shots today for what it's worth. One went in, we'd be having a whole other conversation.
Let's spend the whole rest of the episode just like Martinez? Snipping back at each other with like one small point in our favor.
Well, for a game that's not even over yet. Okay, so next, number 5 on the list, Tyson Barrie, we already discussed. Then Leon Draisaitl, then Artemi Panarin. We've discussed all of these guys. So now let's do one more defenseman. Or no. So we've already discussed. Should we do the ad now, Brian? Or do you want to do one more player first?
I mean, speaking of bets.
Oh, yeah. And so, Brian, speaking of bets, why don't we just take a quick break and thank a sponsor for this week's episode of Keeping Karlsson, our friends over at MyBookie.
Yeah, March is here and the madness has officially begun. We all saw that Oral Roberts game, or at least GIFs on it on our Twitter feed. It's time for you to shoot your shot, though, for March Madness and score big on the nonstop action with my bookie. Select the winners from all the tournament games in the My Bookie bracket contest for a chance at $10,000 in cash prizes. Actually, you know what? Let me just start that over because I feel like that's not even available now.
Okay.
You just asked. I'll just start.
I just said, let's thank our sponsor, My Bookie.
Okay. Yeah, we should absolutely thank My Bookie. And thank goodness March is here, right? The weather's changing. I spent almost all weekend outside. It was beautiful, but many of you might have also spent it inside watching the March Madness, which has officially begun. And it's time for you to also shoot your shot and score big on the nonstop action with My Bookie. Select the winners from tournament games on My Bookie. It doesn't matter whether you're filling out multiple brackets, betting the national championship winner, or simply looking for player and game props. Like if you didn't fill out a bracket, you don't have to worry. You could go game by game at a time. My Bookie has you covered. All you need to do is sign up today at mybookie.ag and use the promo code Karlsson, like in our show name, to secure a deposit bonus up to $1,000. And make sure you use our promo code so they know we hooked you up. That's promo code Karlsson to claim your first deposit bonus. College ball, NHL, NBA, no matter the sport, no matter the minute, MyBookie puts the action in your hands with in-game live betting. And with choice from thousands of lines and odds, you can turn any game day into payday. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie. And when you do, please head over to responsiblegambling.org for some great tips on how you can make sure to play responsibly.
Thanks so much, Brian. Thanks, My Bookie. I'm taking a look at their Stanley Cup winning odds right now. Brian, you could put $1 on the Ottawa Senators to win the Stanley Cup. And if that hits, you would win $200,000. So
I'm
what do you think?
still not going to do it.
Take that deposit bonus. What was it? Up to $1,000, but $1,000. You could have like $20 million if you get that bet right. Okay, so let's move on. We talked about how great Alec Martinez is doing. Another defenseman that's having a good season, or at least a good recent stretch, is Phillip Herronick. He comes 9th on the list for Frozen Tools of the hottest players.
Elon.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. Are we going to?
Oh, right. Also do a stop for the other one. Oh,
yeah.
My bad. Thanks for reminding me. Okay.
You could probably do it like just after we joked, or you could throw to the ads differently.
Wait, what did I say again about?
You said you could have $20 million.
You're telling me, I'll keep that. Then I'll be like, okay.
And then
sorry, everyone.
Say, like,
the rest of the show is going to be smooth the rest of the way. Okay, yeah. I got it. All right, so Brian, we've got a lot more to come through. We've done 8 of the top 20 hottest players in the NHL. We'll get to the rest in just a sec. So you're listening to Keeping Karlsson. Okay, welcome back. We were talking about Alec Martinez. Let's talk about another defenseman. Number 9 on the list of the hottest players over on Frozen Tools is Phillip Herronick. Yeah, the Wings got shut out by Hudobin in Dallas on Saturday, but still, Herronick has 1 goal and 7 assists in his last 6 games. We already talked about him actually on the Short Shifts episode on Thursday. We talked about Herronick in the context of our Ghostis Benched episode, and Lewis asked me who I would take between Herronick and Gostisbehere. That was before the 3rd game in a row where Gostisbehere got sat. And I said I would take Herronick. And yeah, I don't know. Like right now he's looking good, right? He's on the top power play. It's weird that top power play on Detroit has Larkin, Zadina, Rasmussen, and Ernie, and not Mantha, who's on another unit with Fabry, Gagne, Bobby Ryan, and Dennis Chalowski. At least that's how it was on Saturday. I feel like Blashill should change it. Brian, am I like a brilliant genius here if I were to propose that he put Larkin, Zadina, Mantha, Fabry, and Herronick? I think that should be the top power play.
You would be a genius. You'd be every Detroit Red Wings fan and fantasy manager as well for the last several months. You'd be doing exactly what they're doing.
I guess, yeah. I don't know like what Mantha's doing to not get a spot there. Probably similar to what Gostisbehere is doing to get benched. But speaking of Herronick, yeah, so he's only 27% rostered on Yahoo. Was even a free agent in a couple Tier 1 Sweden for a couple days before getting added last week. Brian, how dumb was I for not jumping all aboard the Herronick train when I had the chance?
So I don't think you were that dumb, because before this run, Heronic had just 10 points in 26 games and 0 appeal. You're not the only one and had 0 fantasy appeal. You're not the only one kicking yourself now, I'm sure. And this recent run has come on the heels of a 90% points participation rate. And I'm not sure that anything of substance has changed for Heronic aside from that friendly variance. It's nice to see Heronic go on a run, and he's got an outside shot at being like a 40-point defenseman the rest of the way, especially if he holds this straight up power play 1 deployment, which he seems to have earned back these last couple weeks for the first time since having a glimpse of it at the start of the year. But all this to say, it could go poof very quickly. And as you mentioned, these power play 1, like quote power play 1 lines, or however they're being decided in Detroit, aren't necessarily logical or reasonable. So I just don't know that any unit is going to have a lot of success with or without Heronic on it. So don't go beating yourself up too much if you missed out. This was a really nice little run for him, but I don't expect it to be the norm the rest of the way.
Okay, that's fair. So maybe grab him if you have room for him next week. See if he can get back going after Detroit got shut out in the last game. But yeah, I think I agree with you that he's not a like super sure thing. Another guy I brought up before on this show was Jonathan Bernier, who was on that incredible roll before getting hurt at the end of the game versus Dallas on Thursday. Here's a quote from Blashill yesterday. He said, "No further update on Jonathan Bernier. It's a soft tissue lower body injury. He's still day to day." So that's really a bummer, right? First off, like assuming he's going to come back at some point, or I guess we don't know, but regardless, would you say that Bernier is a clear add-in stash if he's available and people have room in their IR? I know you mentioned some other player last week. I think it was UC Saros, who would have been a really great add-in stash while he was hurt. Why not? Just like if you have the room, just go grab Bernier now, put him in your IR, and you can figure him out later.
There's no argument against it. And even if Bernier was healthy, I'd still be telling you to find a way to add him. The week I pumped his tires and was trying to like come through with this Jonathan Bernier is a really valuable fantasy piece, that ended up being the worst week of Bernier's season. But I haven't lost faith, and neither has Bernier in himself. He bounced back since then. I'm still as high on him now as I was then. Of course, the big caveat here is don't expect a lot of W's from Jonathan Bernier, just a lot of shot volume and a decent save percentage.
Okay, yeah. So I agree. Like at this point, grab him. We'll figure it out later, right? We don't even know when he's going to be back. And in the meantime, is there any interest in Thomas Greiss with Bernier on the shelf? Like I'd imagine he's going to play a lot. He did okay on Saturday. He's up 30 of 33 in that 3-0 loss, but he has a really rough looking 885 save percentage on the season. He's on Detroit, which isn't a good team. Like, I don't know, Brian, like sometimes it's hard to find a volume goalie, and Greiss might just be that with Bernier on the shelf. But I just wonder if you have any confidence in him being capable of doing anything for anybody.
I'm shaking my head for anybody watching this on YouTube. No, I have no confidence in Greiss being that valuable. 38% quality start percentage. And just to put that in more concrete terms, he's had a and just to put that in more concrete terms, Greiss has had a save percentage of 910 or higher in just 3 of his 14 starts this season. Heck, he's had a save percentage of just 900 or higher in 7 of 14 starts. Half his 14 starts, Greiss has had a save percentage below 900, which is just trash. And until he can do anything reasonably well in a reasonably consistent way, I have no interest in bringing him on my roster just to blow up my week.
Okay, so there we go. I cannot disagree. Unless your league counts saves and you're like already losing save percentage anyways, then maybe you like go grab him. That's probably all he's going to be good for. Yeah. Okay. So next up, we got Patrick Kane on this list. So yeah, like I said, like, I don't know exactly how Eric coded this, but it sort of just tries to find like the most recent stretch of hotness and then present that as like the hot streak. But for Patrick Kane, it just has 35 points in his last 24 games. Basically just there hasn't been a lull for him to put a demarcation point. He's just been good all year long. Nothing to say about him. We've talked about Patrick Kane a lot in the year. He's good. So that's not a surprise. Next up, Jacob Voracek shows up on the list. This is a guy who I don't know, like he's been available. Like Dave Benton in Tier 1 a couple has been throwing him out as like trade bait, not even asking for much. I probably should have bit because he's been really good lately. He had a couple multi-point games in a row versus Washington and the Rangers, and then scored a goal versus the Islanders on Thursday to bring him to 6 points in 4 games. No points and only 1 shot in the 6-1 loss to the Islanders on Saturday. And he also has only 1 shot in each of his last 3 games. So that's not looking so great for the like most recent past, but still on the season, Voracek sits. But Still, on the season, Voracek sits at a 69-point pace, which is exactly where he's been actually for the last couple of seasons. So, Brian, is there any reason to think anything will change rest of the way, or is he just like a solid bet to be a 70-point guy or something around there?
Super solid Jakub Voracek. As you said, 67 and 69 point pace the last 2 years before this one. Now he's on like a 70-ish point pace again. Before that, those last 2 years before this one, Voracek ping-ponged between 60 and 80 point seasons. I could dig for days and not be able to come up with a reason to not expect Jakub Voracek to once again be a 65, 70 point guy this season with upside for more. And frankly, one of the least heralded guys who can get you 70 points in a season, give or take 5 in the entire NHL. Everybody forgets about Jake.
Yeah, he's been really good. I guess he's not so great for those shots, which makes him always, you know me, Brian. I turned down a potential of getting Nicholas Backstrom instead of Timo Meier in that trade we discussed. And my reason was just I just don't love these guys who don't take a lot of shots, just because when they don't get a points in the game, they don't give you anything. But Voracek, just like Backstrom, have been giving so many assists that you haven't been worried about a low number of shots. Okay, by the way, on Philly, similar to Max Pacioretty, Sean Couturier last minute didn't suit up for the game for Philly on Saturday. The latest is just like he's being evaluated. According to the Flyers, they expect to have an update on his status on Monday. So could be rough news. Like Sean Couturier is a huge part of this team. This is a team that already has struggled, as we know, this week with that crazy loss to the Rangers, and they got killed again on Saturday without Couturier by the Islanders. So in his absence, like, honestly, I'm not even going to tell you the lines because it's like it was a last minute thing. And also they got killed in that game. So I would check out what the Philly lines are if you're curious to see like if there's any interesting shuffling going into next week, depending on Couturier's status.
Yeah, for sure. And also, like, it could be bad news for some Flyers too. Like, you could see someone might be getting more opportunity, but I am pretty worried about what it might mean for Travis Konechny, who did absolutely nothing without Sean Couturier, and since then has found a new life lately. Not the most consistent scorer, but he's got 10 points in his last 10 games, and I do attribute a lot of that to just having his centerman back. So I am pretty concerned about his fantasy relevance going forward if Couturier is out for any amount of time.
So basically you're saying if it turns out that Couturier is out long-term, trade Travis Konechny if you can. Yeah,
and do it quick before Philly plays any more games, because it's not like it's gonna go down quickly.
Oh no. Okay, yeah. Well, hopefully Couturier is fine, just like Pacioretty. Okay, next on the list, Shea Theodore. We already talked about him. Then we've got Mikko Rantanen. This is like a fun episode, Brian, because we get an opportunity to talk about some of these star players that we normally don't talk about because they're not available. But I'm trying my best to fill in with some somewhat actionable advice for the people listening in their leagues. But yeah, Rantanen, we got to talk about him. His goal in the 6-0 takedown of Minnesota on Saturday brought him to 25 points in his last 17 games. And by the way, one thing that's really impressed me is there was that stretch where Nathan MacKinnon missed 3 games a couple weeks back, and Rantanen had 2 goals versus Anaheim and an assist versus Arizona during that time with MacKinnon out. I've always kind of wondered if MacKinnon sort of is helping Rantanen to look like more of a superstar than he really is. Like, I've never thought Rantanen isn't a good player, obviously, but I've always wondered if like maybe he's riding coattails a little bit, or obviously he's just like getting a lot of points just because he plays with MacKinnon both at even strength and on the power play. But clearly he's great with or without Nathan MacKinnon. So there you go. Mikko Rantanen, he's awesome. And good for him being on the streak, currently hotter than even Nathan MacKinnon. Some more good news for the Avs, aside from Rantanen being so amazing, is they finally got Cale Makar back in their lineup on Thursday after he missed almost a month. He had no points, but 6 shots in the 5-1 win over Minnesota on Thursday. And then he had a goal and an assist in the 6-0 win over Minnesota yesterday. Man, Colorado really had some fun with the Minnesota Wild. So that gives Makar 16 points in 17 games on the season. So he's just picking up right where he left off. He's so good. And like other defensemen on Colorado are so good, like Bowen Byram. So he's like, you know, in the future, he'll be really good, but he also returned on Thursday. Couldn't get in on any of the 11 goals in the past couple of games. It seems like he's probably a year away, at least, from being fantasy relevant, but I imagine he has a huge future. But regardless, Devon Toews scored yesterday, bringing him to 8 points in his last 9 games. We've been raving about Sam Girard all season, but it's 9 games. We've already been raving about Sam Girard all season. Ryan Graves has 3 assists versus the Wild in those last couple of games, 3 shots and 3 blocks yesterday. So Graves is slowly but surely becoming that periffs guy that sometimes gets a point that we saw last year. Brian, have you ever seen a team with so many fantasy relevant D-men before? Like, there's only one guy in the top 6 that I haven't mentioned yet. And I'll bet the listeners will never be able to guess. I bet most listeners have no idea who the 6th person is on the Colorado blue line, with Eric Johnson out. So I'll give you a second to try to guess. Okay, here it is. It's a 27-year-old named Jacob McDonald. So he definitely stands out compared to Makar, Byram, Taves, Girard, and Graves. But man, Brian, this list so good. I've never seen anything like this.
Hey, Elon, let's remember that Greg Patterin and Dan Renouf are also back there putting time in on the Colorado. I don't know what
Oh,
I'm
of
saying. I
course.
have nothing actually to add here. They played 18 games combined, those two guys. They're no Jacob McDonald. That's, I don't know. I assume that spot rotates fairly often. But okay, the point that you're making is there is a lot of fantasy relevance on that Colorado blue line. And it's a great point. It's a great place to do good things. Colorado's looking great, like so good. I feel like they have both sides of their game figured out. And I can't wait to see what they can do in the playoffs with Philip Grubauer, who is, can we even rely? I'm not going to reprise that.
Don't stop
actually.
that.
No,
He's
I'm not
doing
gonna.
just fine.
Yeah, he's good. He's good, everybody. Okay.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, Colorado. Yeah, I'd be curious to know, actually. Tweet at us at Keeping Karlsson if you could think of a team that had 5 fantasy relevant defensemen that you'd consider rostering all at the same time. That is rare territory in my long history as a fantasy hockey podcaster. Okay, next up on the list is Pablo Buchenevich, who we've discussed. And then at number 15, Alex Ovechkin. So nice to see. So he had no points, but 6 shots in the 3-1 loss to the Rangers on Saturday. But before that, 6 goals and 1 assist in his previous 5 games. So nice to see Ovi scoring again, just like the Ovi of old after such a slow start to the season in the goal department. He's currently sitting 7 goals behind McDavid and Matthews. They each have 21. Ovi has 14 now. Probably he's not going to catch them, right? Like, I'd love to see Ovi just go on a huge tear and even catch these guys and have a shot at the Maurice Richard trophy again. But like those 4 games being suspended, like some missed time plus a cold stretch. Unfortunately, it's not looking great. But if anyone can surprise us, I feel like it's Ovi. So I wouldn't totally count him out.
I wouldn't count him out, but Ovechkin's job of catching McDavid or Matthews would be a lot easier if they weren't that good, like as good as they are, right? It's not like they're lucking into the goals they're scoring. They're legit. I think the question would be, can Ovechkin keep within 7 goals of them? Can he hold that gap? And even if he can, I don't care if he doesn't close it. I think the amazing thing is that Ovechkin might be able to just stay that close to them the rest of the way, and that would be a big win anyway. Do you remember, Elon, a couple weeks ago, I made the case that Ovechkin might be like, you laughed at me because he's having a great season. I was like, you might be able to buy low because he's not quite performing up to expectations. There was no actual buy low window, but I said if anybody was starting to panic about his scoring, don't worry, it's going to come back. And Ovi has scored 6 goals on 27 shots since then to make me look pretty good about projecting that about going on a limb. And then Ovechkin went out and scored 6 goals on his last 27 shots to make me look good for going out on that limb of saying that Alex Ovechkin is going to score more goals.
Yeah, you were a brilliant genius that day, and Ovechkin has made you look good. Like, he's looking good, but Brian Com, you're the real star of this recent hot streak by Alex Ovechkin. All right, so next on the list, we talked about how Minnesota was getting destroyed by Colorado over the weekend, but that did not stop Matt Zuccarello from still showing up on this list of the top 20 hottest players, according to Frozen Tools. Even when getting massacred by Colorado, Zook still got in on the 1 wild goal, and he now sits at 20 points in 18 games on the season and 7 points in his last 6 games. He's obviously enjoying getting to line up with Kaprizov at even strength and on the power play. Looking at Yahoo, like, Zook is now rostered in 47% of Yahoo leagues and obviously climbing quickly. Are you at a point, I'm curious, like, I want to get a general vibe check on Zuccarello. Is he the kind of guy, yeah, obviously you should roster him if he's available. Like, you'd be crazy not to, unless it's like a super shallow league. But are you at a point where, like, even if, let's say, he goes cold for a couple of games, you'd be like, no, this guy's good? Like, is he like back to the Zook of old where, like, we knew he was going to be a solid producer for the rest of the way? Or does he still have to earn even more confidence from you before you'd even hold him if, let's say, he goes pointless for the next couple games?
A couple games of pointlessness from Zuccarello I'll deal with. I'm surprised it hasn't happened yet, frankly. I added Zuccarello myself to my Cupful team, expecting him to be like a one and done. And a month later, still on my roster. And there's one big reason why. And the reason is that Matt Zuccarello has been on the ice for 20 goals this season. He's scored 5 of them himself. He was the primary assist on 10 of them. And he was the secondary assist on 5 more. Which means if you're doing the math in your head, that Matt Zuccarello has been on the ice for 20 goals, and he has picked up 20 points on those 20 goals in all situations, which gives him a 100% points partition. So close. which gives him a 100% points participation rate, aka IPP, which is not going to hold. But here's the thing. You're asking me, like, what do we do? And how soon do we jump ship on him? I don't think you jump ship on Matt Zuccarello. I think you run out the streak. You could try and sell high, but I don't think anyone's going to buy high on him. Honestly, if Zuccarello can hold to be a 60 or higher point pace player the rest of the way, I think obviously that makes him worth holding. And I think that's something he's capable of, especially because he's on that snake bitten Minnesota power play. So he's not getting a whole lot of points from there while he's doing so well. So yeah, I'm not ready to overlook Zuccarello as being just a random hot streak. And I'm not going to forget that Zuccarello could be a legit rest of season hold even once the run wears off. So if you're asking me how many games of pointlessness it would take me to grow very impatient with Zuccarello, well, one other factor here is Minnesota has one of the better schedules the rest of the season in terms of games played. Depending on your roster composition, you might not have room for him on all your off nights, but there's a lot of games remaining for Minnesota. And Zuccarello's in a good place on the depth chart. And like you said, we've known that he has the capacity to be a reliable 60-point player. This could be the right situation for him. So I just don't think you should be too trigger happy on the drop button. If you do see him called for 2, 3, even 4 games, I would deal with.
Yeah. Plus, these last couple of games were against Colorado, and Minnesota clearly just couldn't match up to them for whatever reason. Their next 3 games are against Anaheim and then St. Louis. So obviously St. Louis is a tough opponent, but I would assume Monday, Wednesday versus Anaheim. Hopefully that's going to be a bit of an improvement for Minnesota, and some of their players will get going after going cold for these couple of games. Some bad news in Minnesota, though, if there hasn't already been enough with these games against Colorado, Matt Dumba's hurt again. So again, just like these last couple of injuries I mentioned, we don't know the severity yet, but man, like rough break for this guy, right? He already missed a couple week stretch at the start of February. He missed most of the 2018-19 season. The guy's only 26 years old, so hopefully he could get back on track, even with just like a full healthy season. Like, I want him to, get this career going. I want to see like what Dumba can do in a full season, like back at 100% health. I can't really think of like a fantasy impact here for the Dumba injury. Like, I don't think really anyone benefits. You can let me know if you disagree. I just think it's a bummer.
It is a bummer. I don't think anyone benefits. We saw when Dumba was out earlier this season that neither Spooge. We saw when he was out. I'll just start over. It is just a bummer. And I don't think anyone stands to really benefit from it on the roster. We saw the last time Dumba was injured, neither Spurgeon nor Suter really got to do anything more. So I'm not really expecting anything different this time. I guess there's still a chance, but I'm very meh on expecting any other Minnesota defenseman to step up.
Yeah, well, hopefully the Wild will at least be able to help their goalies to do better than they did over these last couple of games with Dumba off the roster. Okay, number 17 on the list, we've got Anze Kopitar from the LA Kings, 14 points in his last 10 games. That was going into today, which this game that we kept referencing, it's now over 3-1, a win for the Kings. Kopitar got himself an assist. Let me see, a second assist. There are 2 more points for Kopitar. So the hot streak continues. I don't see that slowing down anytime soon. He's so good. Last week, Adrian Kempe was like the non-Kopitar Doughty like hotness in LA, right? He had those 6 goals in 3 games, pointless in 4 games since then for Adrian Kempe going into today. And a quick check, yeah, pointless again today. It's fine. We're a snoozer alert for Adrian Kempe, right? Like probably people were holding him. He had this great schedule this week. Turned out not to be as great since Monday's game got canceled, but it's still like Wednesday, Friday, Sunday. But at this point, LA plays Monday, Wednesday next week, so you might want to hold, but I honestly feel like, yeah, he could do something, but I'd be ready to drop.
Kempe fits the bill as the guy you were describing Zuccarello out to be, who we expected Zuccarello to be this year, which we agreed now he's not. He's earned some more patience, but Kempe, I don't think has earned that extra patience after even just 2 games of doing nothing. I think Kempe makes to be a fun streamer, but if he's cold and you need some help or you need some games, I wouldn't hold him while you're waiting for the next run, which I think is going to come. I think he's going to have a nice little run again some point between here and the rest of the season. I just don't want to hold him while I wait for it and he does nothing.
Yeah, I think Kempe is he falls to me in the Frank Vetrano
Yeah.
category. It's like, I like him as a stream if you need a game, because he seems like the kind of guy that has the potential to like score a couple goals, which is hard to find out of free agency, rather than just like, you could grab a Ryan Getzlaff and maybe he'll give you an assist, but Kempe maybe could give you a bigger game. But yeah, don't expect it consistently. Obviously, one reason also why he's not as appealing right now is for a stretch he was on the top line when Iafallo missed a game, Dustin Brown missed a game, but now Iafallo and Brown both healthy, lining up with Kopi on the top line. Brown and Iafallo, another good game today. So those are the two guys you want on LA. If either of them are available, I like them right now playing with Kopitar.
So you said Brown with another good game today, but he'd actually been like pretty cold, right? I don't know if you noticed, but
Okay.
Dustin Brown before today had no points in 4 games and just 2 in his last 10. He's back on the board with a power play goal from today's game. I was going to say before that happened that I think everything's going to course correct back to a 55, 60 point pace the rest of the way for Dustin Brown, because I don't think this deployment is changing and he still seems to be half decent at hockey. So don't panic if you're a Dustin Brown owner. I think you're going to be in good shape.
Yeah, to me, I always look at, honestly, like I probably didn't even notice the point drought, because he's still getting 3-4 shots every single game.
Yeah.
And maybe it's my bias, but I just love players who are shooting. I'm not worried about them. They're going to be fine.
Well, that's Adrian Kempe to some extent too.
Yeah, but not like as consistently. Like today, what did he have? A couple shots. I don't know. I guess it's like very negligible, 2 versus 3. But to me, there's like a big difference between a 2-shot per game player and a 3-shot per game player.
Yeah, and Kempe's had 2 or fewer for 5 straight now, which is not what we like. When we really liked him, he's had like 6-5-5 or 3-5-4, but lately, nada.
Yeah, Kempe doesn't give me that vibe, that solid Dustin Brown. Like you're going to get your shots, good chance at a goal every single game. Okay, so next, let's look at number 18 on the Frozen Tools list of hot players. Jonathan Huberdeau slots in 11 points in his last 9 games. That was going into today. I believe Florida played. They lost to Tampa 5-3, so I can give you a live update here. No points for Huberdeau. Surprising, right? It's rare at this point that Huberdeau goes cold. The number 19 on the list, Alex Barkov, also from Florida. 16 points in his last 12 going into today. And Barkov, 2 more assists today. So Barkov is continuing the hot streak, and obviously I'm not worried about Huberdeau. Man, Florida? Okay, so they lost today against Tampa, so I don't know how much you're going to hold against them. It would be cool to see them beat Tampa. They've done it before this season, but still going into today, I guess I could just give you the update now. They're 27-4 on the season, 20 wins, 7 losses, 4 overtime losses. This is like a really good team, it seems. Like, how seriously should we be taking these guys as cup contenders at this point? They're right at the top of the standings.
We should be taking the Florida Panthers seriously as cup contenders. They look good any way you slice them. They rank 8th in the league in expected goals for rates, 6th in expected goals against rates, and that all adds up to ranking 4th in the league in 5-on-5 expected goals for percentage, which means they are the complete package this year. It's amazing what I guess a coach can do. I mean, they did add some pieces, they subtracted a couple, but everything they're doing looks good, and also for the Panthers, it looks sustainable. Their PDO, which is a measure of shooting percentage and save percentage, that generally, if either one is trending too high or too low, your PDO will be too high or too low, and that will mean that something you're doing isn't sustainable. But the Panthers, their PDO is right where it should be, which is at 100. That's the baseline number for it. Anyway, this thing could work for the Florida Panthers. I guess the counter argument you could make against them is to say their division is kind of weak. And yeah, that's true. Columbus, Nashville, Chicago, Detroit. I don't like Dallas. So neither of those teams are great competition. But if you just isolate their games against Tampa and Carolina, they are 3-3-2. So they're right in the mix. They're not dominating those teams. They're not getting dominated by those teams. They have records that would signal that a 7-game series between Florida and Tampa or Florida and Carolina could be a lot of fun. So I'm really looking forward to see just how much the Panthers can do.
Yeah, I mean, and it's like you've mentioned some players they brought in. They're players that no one even expected to do anything. Like Carter Verhaeghe scored again today. So he's got 8 points in his last 7 games, up to like a 65-point pace on the season. I feel like he's going to keep it up, right? At this point, like he's sticking with Barkov and he's doing so well. I can't see why he would slow down.
Yeah, it really does look like he's going to keep it up. Do you know that he was drafted by the Leafs? Did you know that?
I did not know that.
We might have mentioned it before on the show, but It's so funny. Like Toronto over the years, and like this is not a dig at Toronto or anything. Every team's fan base is big on their prospects, but I was like, oh, look at Levo and Carrick and Corrado and Marinson and Jeremy Bracco, and Carter Verhaeghe out of nowhere is like, oh, this guy is the full-time NHLer, at least when he's playing with Alex Barkov, but capable of being in that role. And another fun team connection for Carter Verhaeghe is that he came from Tampa's fourth line. At another time, Tampa's fourth line boasted a player by the name of Jonathan Marchessault, or at the time, I think he was still going by Jonathan Odie Marchessault. And then when he left Tampa, he got more opportunity, and we see what he's done with that in the NHL. Also, by the way, in Florida. So Florida and Tampa seem to have this Tampa's fourth line is where a top line Panther can play. And
Right.
it's a funny little So if a player's good enough for Tampa's fourth line, then they're good enough for Florida's first line, I guess, and they're capable of the role too. So that'll be really fun to see if that happens again between Tampa and Florida in the same state too. Who'd have thunk? Current Tampa Bay fourth liners, for anybody watching, Pat Maroon, Ross Colton, and Mathieu Joseph. So look out for that trio, but probably not Pat Maroon.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect Maroon at this point in his career. This Ross Colton, another assist today for him, only 9 minutes and 41 seconds. So it's hard to expect much, but he's had a couple games with points like recently. So
those are Carter Verhaeghe 2019-20 minutes right there.
Okay, so yeah, watch out for Ross Colton. He'll be the next Carter Verhaeghe. Also, by the way, this top line on Florida with Barkov. So Barkov and Verhaeghe are like locked in, and it looks like again for this game, like Duclair and Mason Marchment were like swapping back and forth onto that line. So like Duclair had a goal and an assist and 4 shots in a game on Saturday, but then like no points today. So I don't know what to say about Duclair. He's probably like a good stream for sure, but don't expect him to even stick on the top line for a whole game. But you don't even need a whole game potentially to get points when you're playing with Alex Barkov. Okay. Oh yeah, one other player I want to ask about on Florida. There's such an interesting team because here's another random guy that's all of a sudden doing well this year. Mackenzie Weegar has 9 points in his last 7 games. Going into today, let's see if Weegar did anything. Okay, nothing today, but still, so what is that? 9 points in his last 8 games. He had an assist on Saturday, along with like 3 shots, 3 hits, 3 blocks. He's helping you across the board. The short shifts guys already talked about him last Tuesday. They named the episode Eager Weegar. But Ryan, I got to get your opinion. Like, where is this coming from? And is there anything sustainable about what Mackenzie Weegar is doing to, like, maybe not like, a point per game, but can we expect him to be, say, a half point per game along with these great peripherals, which would make him a great ad all over the place?
Yeah, and I think that's actually being conservative, calling Mackenzie Weegar a half point per game player. Thanks to this last run, which I'm going to, like you mentioned, just the last 8 games or something. I'm going to go back 17 now, including today's game on Sunday. Weegar has 2 goals and 12 assists for 14 points in those 17 games. I don't know how many shots he got today, but before today, he had 28 shots in 16 games. Like you said, some peripherals. And he's doing all this, by the way, with no power play time. So I am really excited about Mackenzie Weegar. I can't find any reason he can't keep up the pace he's on, which is north of 45 points the rest of the way. So if you've already got him, hold on tight. And if you don't have him and DR hard to find, stop sleeping on Mackenzie Weegar.
Yeah, especially if you're in like a multi-category league, like, yeah, so a 40 to 45 point defenseman is good. But if you could also find one that's he also had 4 PIMs today for what it's worth, along with his 2 hits. So yeah, Weegar is helping you across the board right now. And yeah, this Florida team, I'm very interested to see what they're going to do. They're at 13-1 odds right now over on, what's our site again? What's our betting site?
My bookie.
13-1 odds over on my bookie. So I don't know, like, are those good odds? Are they fair odds? Clearly, like, everyone's kind of hype about the Panthers. I think that's probably about fair odds, actually, at 13-1, because I still like Tampa Bay and Colorado quite a bit better.
It seems fair. It seems to be like within the top 5 or 6 odds available. So yeah, makes sense. But I would if Florida's a team, like, maybe you don't go and put out a bet on them, but if you want to feel cool with your friends talking hockey and like seem knowledgeable, that's a great thing to be like, I think Florida's got a chance. And in a month or 2 from now, you might look really, really smart. Gain some social capital.
Yeah, I remember that used to be a thing that you used to say on the show. Like, here's something fun for your dinner parties to drop this knowledge.
I didn't say dinner parties. I meant like I tried to make it more hockey-ish. Like when you're at the bar having a brew with your buds, watching the games.
Oh, I watch my games at home. Well, before COVID,
at dinner parties.
At dinner parties, everyone would bring a bottle of wine. We'd all dress up, and we'd have the game on the radio with nature stuff on the TV. I don't know. Okay, so let's go down. Number 19 on the list, Evgeny Malkins. This is bittersweet, right? So 12 point.
A great experience, actually. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Oh well, hey, I would invite you if I was allowed.
Okay. When we're allowed, we will listen to the game on the radio and put nature shows on television.
Yeah. And we'll sip some wine and discuss Carter Verhaeghe and Mackenzie Weegar and the Florida Panthers.
In our Sunday best.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, Malkin slots in as the 19th hottest player on Frozen Tools, though I think he's going to fall off that list soon because he's out. And it's like he's apparently week to week right now. I saw something recently on Rotoworld that like the coach said he will hopefully be back before the playoffs, which is like, on one hand, like, I guess that's good, but also I wasn't even worried that he wasn't gonna be back before the playoffs until I saw that. So clearly Malkin's gonna be out for a little while. Before that, he was great, like 12 points his last 9 games. But that's a shame. So he's out. The lines for Pittsburgh. What can I say? So Pittsburgh played. Do you want to lament a little bit before I move on?
No, just spoken. I mean, earlier you got to boast about making Zibanejad, who you've had all season. You're waiting, and finally deliverance. I've been very happy with I'm the Malkin manager in my Cupful league, and I'm was so happy to see him finally get on a roll. Points in so many games recently, and it's a real big bummer that he's out now. So I guess that's all. I just want let's just take a minute.
Yeah, I feel bad.
Malkin managers out there.
I mean, I will say, not that like no one wants this to happen. Like, this is bad. I don't want this to happen. Like, there is an inherent risk to having Malkin on your team, and this is it. Like, this is not the first time that Malkin's had a long-term injury near the end of a season, and obviously the Penguins know this, and that's why they're probably not going to rush him back. So it's like anytime anyone's asked me a trade advice question regarding Malkin, you could find the receipts on Twitter. I always say, just remember, Malkin comes with an injury risk. Not saying I called it, that I called it to get injured, but it's a bummer. It happens a lot. So that's a shame. So Pittsburgh, by the way, lost today to New Jersey 2-1. So, that's obviously a sign that maybe they're not at 100% because New Jersey's not the most amazing team. We could look at the lines from this game. So Crosby, Rust, Gensel, they loaded up the top line, which left the rest of the guys to fend for themselves a little bit. Kasperi Kapanen is now playing with Jared McCann as the centerman and Evan Rodriguez on the other wing. I guess that's the second line, unless you want to count Mark Jankowski, Zach Aston Reese, and Sam Lafferty. There's a really big drop off after Crosby, Rust, and Gensel. So I guess the good news for Kasperi Kapanen, he's gotten on the top power play. So that's nice. But I still kind of feel like this is probably a net negative to now have such a weak, even strength line. So what do you think about the prospects for Kasperi Kapanen moving forward, who was on a bit of a nice run, enjoying this time with Malkin that's now come to an end?
Yeah, real bummer for Kasperi Kapanen and anybody who's been enjoying his production. The good news is that he had 4 shots today, even with really just the power play deployment going for him. And he actually saw a less than 50% share of his team's power play time. I'm just checking out. I think that was probably just an unfortunate whistle timing thing, though, that kept him from not getting a greater than 50% share of the team's power play time. I guess if you have Kapanen, you're pretty concerned. You're hoping for that power play production. At least if he can get you 3 or 4 shots while he's doing nothing else, maybe that'll make him worth holding on to. But it is pretty rough to be anywhere but Sidney Crosby's line. In Pittsburgh, as you mentioned, you've got Crosby, Rust, and Gensel as the top line. And then I don't think there's any other line. I'm looking at these combos right now that you mentioned. I don't think there's another line that would even really qualify as a second line. It's a couple third lines and a fourth line in Pittsburgh. No. All of it, this roster, I mean, it's not a surprise. And you're missing Malkin and Zucker, which is big, right? Because that's your second line right there. And then you could have a third line there with whoever's left. That would be fine. It's just rough goings. So I would be concerned about having anybody not playing on that top line, Crosby, Rust, Gensel. If you want to look for a reason to hold hope for Kapanen, he's on the top power play, but I don't think at even strength he's going to have a whole lot of luck scoring.
Yeah, I'd be okay to let go of Kapanen and move on to someone else, probably. By the way, also on this list, after 20, number 24, Chris Letang in the list of hottest players, 5 points in his last 5 games. That was going into today. Pittsburgh's goal today was Crosby assisted by Gensel and Rust. So Letang didn't get it on it. So I'm sure he's going to fall off the Frozen Tools list now, less than point per game. Come on, Chris Letang. But still sitting at close to a 60-point pace on the season. Brian, I'm so interested to see what's going to happen to Letang when he hits free agency this summer. It's just so weird to imagine Letang on another team. First of all, I guess quarterbacking some other team's power play. It's also weird to imagine what would happen in Pittsburgh. like, you know, we've always just ever since the start of keeping Karlsson, we've either been talking about Chris Letang or Justin Schultz running the top power play in Pittsburgh. There was like one episode this season where Letang looked like he might be injured. We were discussing if it was going to be like Pierre Olivier Joseph or John Marino, like, but like that could be reality next year if Letang goes. And Marino really has not stepped up this year. Like, I really misjudged this guy. I drafted him high in a dynasty league, assuming at the very least he would do what he did last year, which was like a 35 to 40 point defenseman with upside for more. But he's like on the exact opposite, hardly getting any points at all. So, man, I wonder what Pittsburgh's going to do. Do they bring, but at the same time, do you really sign Chris Letang to a long-term contract when you're clearly going into the twilight with Crosby and Malkin? Like, I feel like you have to let Letang go, which is wild.
I don't think it's a long-term. If it's a long-term contract, you walk from Chris Letang. But if you can convince him and say, we're going to take a couple more shots with Crosby and Malkin, do you want to be a part of it or do you not want to be a part of it?
Right.
Then we'll see, you know, maybe a couple one-year deals are on the horizon for Chris Letang, who's on a 60-point pace this season, quietly enough. There's nothing weird or different or special happening in his numbers. He's just putting up a 60-point pace. Good for you, Chris Letang. Actually, they look worse than usual somehow, but the points are coming, and I see no real reason to think that they won't keep coming at the rate that they are. And yeah, beyond John Marino, I feel like we're looking at Mike Matheson as maybe the most likely replacement if Letang does move on, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
Yeah, that'll be a fun off-season episode when we discuss the Chris Letang UFA signing either in Pittsburgh or elsewhere. By the way, Casey DeSmith had a great game on Saturday, stopping 24 of 25. That was his fifth straight 930 save percentage or higher start. Then Tristan Jarry played today, and he also had a good game. He stopped 33 of 35. So both Pittsburgh goalies looking good, but Casey DeSmith just interests me just because he's been good for so long. I wonder if Pittsburgh potentially gives Casey DeSmith more runway, like even just for next week. Brian, this is my, again, like I said at the top of the show, this is my crucial week where I need to win to stay alive in the cupful. And I had Tristan Jarry, who was going to be playing Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday is Pittsburgh's schedule, which meant at most 2 games for Jarry. And potentially, like, who knows? Let's say in the Wednesday, Thursday, what if DeSmith does better in, you know, than Jarry does in that back-to-back? All of a sudden, what if DeSmith gets to start on Saturday? I don't know. I didn't want to risk it. So I dropped him. I got UC Saros instead, who we're going to get to in a little bit. So I don't know. I'm not saying like, you know, drop Tristan Jarry yourselves, but I'm just saying like DeSmith has earned like maybe a longer look.
Maybe. I feel like you're kind of trying to will this into existence because you traded Jarry and it'll make you feel better if DeSmith plays more. I'm very open to the idea. I went to see what Pittsburgh's schedule was down the stretch, and there aren't a lot of back-to-backs. There's no automatic DeSmith starts, but I don't think he needs to wait for automatic starts, given that he has a 956 save percentage over his last 5 games. He did have a rocky start. Remember when Jarry had a rocky start and DeSmith couldn't capitalize on the door opening to get a better share? But now DeSmith is playing regularly over the last little while. He's putting up good numbers. So I do wonder if it does swing a bit away from Tristan Jarry being the number 1 to being the number 1A. Yeah,
like I think it really depends on like what type of coach Mike Sullivan is, right? Like, does he want to get both their goalies go? Like, if DeSmith is hot, do you want to give him games, or do you just want to let Jarry like really? Because on one hand, you'd say like, don't run Jarry into the ground. You need him for your playoff run. On the other hand, you could say, oh no, Jarry needs to like get into the swing of things and get prepared for a playoffs where he's going to have to play a bunch of games in a row potentially. So I guess we'll see what happens. But DeSmith is definitely putting up a case for getting more starts. Okay, number 20 on the list as of yesterday of the hottest players in the NHL according to Frozen Tools, we've got Nikolai Ehlers. What an amazing season for Nikolai Ehlers, and it continues. He had 2 assists in the 4-2 loss to Edmonton on Saturday, bringing him to 10 points in his last 7 games. He now sits at 33 points in 31 games on the season, and that's with only 33% of Winnipeg's power play time, and he's over a point per game. In fact, he has 8 power play points from the second power play. So even though he's not on the top power play, he's still getting power play points. The leader on the team in power play points, it's a tie with Scheifele and Wheeler, who both have 11 power play points. So Ehlers is only 3 behind those guys. Brian, I can't think, just like I said about the Colorado D, like I also can't think of another example of a time when someone broke a point per game pace for the entire season with less than like 40% of their team's power play time. Like, please let me know if you could think of someone, or if not, then please tweet at us if you can. I'd love to know an example of someone else who's done this before.
The closest recent example was Timo Meier. Remember that? But he had, I think his pace was around 70 points without getting onto the top power play. Nick Ehlers, is doing fantastic. He looks really good at 5-on-5. The reason he has 8 power play points is because he's pointed on every power play goal scored, while he's on the ice, he's also scored 4 of them himself on 18 power play shots. So I don't expect that power play point pace to continue from the second unit, but I do think that he's still going to be this incredible. I mean, I can't say he's like Timo Meier because he was doing it before Timo Meier, at least being in the mid 60s. I think he's just going to be 70. I think he can definitely be a 70 point, maybe 75 point pace guy the rest of the season, even if his power play points regress a little bit. Because right now he's at an 87 point pace, knock off a couple. He's still going to be a great. There's no actionable fantasy advice here unless you find an Ehlers owner who for some reason doesn't believe that based on where I expect you might have drafted Nick Ehlers, I think you're pretty happy with how he's doing for you.
Yeah, such an amazing season. And by the way, Brian, I know normally you said it about another player earlier in the show, Matt Zuccarello. You were saying if you have 100% IPP, that's not gonna, sustain. I would say this case I might disagree or wonder if maybe he can sustain it, just because this is on the power play where they don't play much anyways. And this is Nick Ehlers' power play. It's him, Matthew Perreault, Andrew Kopp, and Pierre-Luc Dubois, and then I guess Neil Pionk on D. So it's obviously the play is going to go through Ehlers every time if they're going to score a goal.
True. Yeah, that's fair. So then I guess I'd look and see, okay, are they overperforming as a unit while he's on the ice, in terms of shooting percentage?
Yeah,
I don't think so.
That would be
also,
okay.
I thought the point you were going to make is that 8 points on 8 on ice goals gives him 100% power play IPP. I might, if I were to regress him, it would only be to 75 or 80%, which would only knock 2 power play points off his total so far this season. So that's not even a big hit. If we do say that's all the regression we expect to come to him, that's nothing. That would still put him on an 82 point pace for the season.
Yeah, he's good. And he's good on the power play, clearly. So it's I don't know. I guess Winnipeg knows what they're doing, but I'd love to see him on the top power play. Imagine if he's on another team. He could be the centerpiece of a power play. He's clearly the centerpiece of the second power play, but doesn't need it. He's having an amazing season. Okay, so Brian, let's talk about one more Winnipeg player here since we're already on the Jets. So PLD also got 2 points on Saturday. He's playing with Ehlers at even strength on the power play, like I said. So PLD also had a 3-assist game versus Montreal on Wednesday. I should probably say who that is, Pierre-Luc Dubois. So he started to heat up. Brian, we actually talked about him. I think it was on the Patreon cast. We were talking about how he's slumping, but since then he's looking good. I wonder, is this just the kind of thing where maybe it was just an adjustment period coming to a new team? I actually, there was someone mentioned in our Discord server how Mark Stone struggled a little bit when he first went to Vegas. Remember, he was quiet at the end of that season. Then the playoffs, he was awesome. Then the next year, he has turned into the Mark Stone that we've come to know and love. So I wonder if Pierre-Luc Dubois just needed some time to adjust to the Jets. And now that he's going, I don't know, I'm just trying to set a narrative that it's possible that maybe he is the 60 plus point pace guy that we expect him to be going into the year.
I appreciate that narrative. I'm only laughing. I'm not laughing at the thought, it's definitely possible. It's just really annoying that after literally last week's show, I was I think I'm done waiting on Pierre-Luc Dubois. He goes off with 5 points in 3 games, has 9 shots over 3 games, which I don't think he's done in any 3-game stretch as a Winnipeg Jet. So look, I'm not going to say that this means he's for real there, but he's definitely bought some time, which I feel bad. I just feel bad. I'm sorry to anybody who dropped him and lost him for the last week. Maybe you can still get him back if nobody's noticed. If others have noticed, I'm really sorry and hope he has a terrible season the rest of the way.
Oh no.
Well, no, just so I didn't blow anyone's season. That one feels bad.
I mean, you had a good reason. I'm sure that these people were just waiting for permission to drop him if they dropped him. And what were you supposed to say? Yeah, he's a talented player. I think we said, I'd love to go back and listen. I'm sure at least one of us said he's a talented player. There's a reason why he was drafted so high. And, he's playing with Ehlers. It's a good spot. But when someone's cold for so long, by the way, here's another player that's cold for so long on Winnipeg. Kay Towney here is saying in the chat that Wheeler looks horrible. I'm taking a look. So he's got only 1 point in his last 4 games. Only 3 points in his last 9 games. Blake Wheeler has been doing nothing lately. So I don't know. That's concerning.
Yeah. And this is following a bunch of criticism. It was around the 10-game mark, whereas Blake Wheeler seems to have disappeared. What's he doing? And he had a cold snap then that he bounced back from. But yeah, just 3 points in his last 9, 2 points in his last 8, if I want to slice it another way. And I'm not looking too deep at his numbers, but he has been in the minuses for the last 5 games in the plus minus column, which doesn't mean a ton to me, but that's not terribly characteristic for Blake Wheeler. So I'm not sure exactly what's happening. Maybe someone to look into a little further for next week if this slide continues.
Yeah, maybe we can make a call out. Could we put out like the bat signal for Ben and Lewis on short shifts? We want to hear your thoughts on Blake Wheeler on Tuesday. Okay, but no pressure if you have another show already planned. I don't want to plan their show. Okay, so Brian, I wanted to have a nice structure to our show, so we went to the top 20 hottest players on Frozen Tools. But you know me, I still gotta bring up the other players I want to talk about. So let's end the show with some bits and bites around the league of players that didn't land or their teams didn't land on this top 20, if you don't mind. And I gotta start in Toronto because these lines. It's crazy. What's going on? I mentioned it on short shifts. We hadn't seen any games yet, but like Galchenyuk and Wayne Simmons are back in the lineup. Simmons was injured. Galchenyuk just got signed after he was waived by the Ottawa Senators like a month ago, and he had been in the minors, had been doing well. He got called up. And like, check out these lines yesterday in the 2-0 win over Calgary. I'm seeing that they went with Matthews, Marner, and Wayne Simmons, and then Tavares with Nylander and Alex Galchenyuk. What? Okay. And then Simmons was also on the top power play, which I guess you said there was a stretch where he wasn't on that power play, but there was a stretch where it was Simmons, Matthews, Marner, Thornton, and Morgan Riley. And I even wrote here that there was a stretch in the game where Tavares and Nylander jumped in for the old guys. But yeah, each of Simmons and Galchenyuk have an assist in those 2 games since returning. Both also have 3 shots on goal. Keep in mind, the Leafs only play on Thursday and Saturday of next week, which is the reason why I traded John Tavares. And like, lines could change before that. So I wouldn't like rush to grab like a Galchenyuk or Simmons in your deep league. But that said, like, watch at game day lines. And if you're playing like DFS, or if you want like a stream, again, like this week, it's like 2 busy days. So it might not be the best week to stream in these Leafs, but you got to love a play. You know, we were excited about Thornton playing with Matthews and Marner. So why not be excited about Wayne Simmons? And same for like an Alex Galchenyuk playing with Tavares and Nylander. And, you know, there's always that small chance this is crazy, right? But like, I've always still thought, like, why did Galchenyuk become so bad all of a sudden? So I wonder if I'm not going to even say it. I'm not even going to finish the sentence, but you know what I'm thinking. So I don't know if you have any comment on these 2 new additions to the Leafs roster.
What are you going to say?
Just like he was supposed to be good. So maybe there's still something left in Alex Galchenyuk given the right opportunity, but I don't want to like actually say that I think that, then have it clipped. Julianne's going to put in clipping Karlsson. So Elon on the last show said that Galchenyuk's going to be good, and then he went pointless in 3 games. And it's like, okay, so I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying like there might be something there. He was a first round pick. He had like a 30+ goal season on Montreal back in the day. So I don't know.
I love how uncomfortable it made you to say that, and yet I feel like that's one of my classic hits. Like that's something I regularly say about a player, and especially Alex Galchenyuk over the years. And I have more or less given up on him, but I'm of course interested if he's in that. I guess the comparable is to say Jimmy Vesey has been in such a good spot and didn't do anything with it. So it is possible to do nothing from this spot. Alex Galchenyuk is not a sure shot being there, and he only played 9 minutes and 56 seconds, even with that deployment. So that deployment was very, very limited, even though that was a line he played on. So great, he got an assist. He had no shots. I guess it's someone you can watch to stream in a deep league where you would have streamed in Jimmy Vesey at some point earlier this year, like the first week or 2 of the season. But beyond that, he's going to have to show me a little more before I'm ready to give him a chance.
No, I definitely agree. I would go Wayne Simmons ahead of Galchenyuk if I was picking one of those 2 guys.
Well, Wayne Simmons was just starting to get some heat before he got injured, although that heat was very unsustainable. Like, everyone was really excited. I feel like the day before he got injured,
he scored 2 goals.
And he was like flying off the free agency rack, the figurative free agency rack. And then he got injured and he was just dropped again. Look, I'm not expecting a whole lot from Wayne Simmons, but it's nice to have a guy who plays net front on the Toronto power play. There's enough garbage to clean up that he could provide you with some fantasy relevance from that spot. But I wouldn't be holding my breath. Like, he's not someone I'd work to make room for on my roster.
Yeah, these are 2 deep calls, but you got to mention whenever there's someone playing with Matthews and Marner or playing with Tavares and Nylander. I should also say, though, that in that game on Saturday, and it's being mentioned here in the chat also, that Zach Hyman is kind of like a rover. There was like some points in the game where Hyman was playing with Matthews and Marner in that 2-0 win over Calgary, and Hyman is like having a great year. So it's like, even though we're talking about non-Hyman guys playing in the top 6, you still probably want Zach Hyman over all of them, because at any point he can get there, and even not there, he did score a goal playing with Matthews and Marner, even in this last game, even though he wasn't with them for the majority of the time. So great season for Zach Hyman.
Yeah, little Zach Hyman appreciated. A little Zach Hyman appreciation moment here. We had a question on our Discord server a little like last week about whether what he's doing is sustainable. And the answer was like, yeah, absolutely. 55 point pace, fantastic. And there's nothing weird about it. This is just who he is. He is a really, really fantastic complementary player.
Yeah, and he's, by the way, on a contract year. So it'll be interesting to see what the Leafs can do because, they don't have that much money left. And they might have to choose between Zach Hyman, maybe, and Frederik Andersen, who's also a UFA. And the big news out of Toronto, aside from, I guess, Thornton and Galchenyuk, is that Frederik Andersen missed Saturday's game with a lower body injury. So he's been really bad lately. I can't imagine his fantasy managers were like too annoyed of being able to stash Andersen in an IR plus spot. He's got an .897 save percentage in 23 games so far. But they are especially not minding it if they were able to grab Jack Campbell instead, who played his first game since returning from his injury on that game on Saturday versus Calgary, and he shut them out, stopping 31 shots. And that's his second shutout in a row after blanking the Oilers back on February 27th before he went on the shelf. So, man, like Jack Campbell has got to be a pretty hot target right now, right? Like, okay, here are all the reasons. Frederik Andersen's hurt. Frederik Andersen was struggling even when he's not hurt. Frederik Andersen's a free agent at the end of the season. Like, okay, so I have all that, plus the fact that Jack Campbell has 2 straight shutouts. Even if Andersen is healthy, if the Leafs don't give Jack Campbell the Thursday game, I can't even imagine what Leafs Twitter will be like. It's like, what does this guy have to do? All the stars are aligning that Jack Campbell should get a run, and maybe he'll get it just because Andersen's injured. But either way, I feel like now is the time to be running to grab Jack Campbell.
Totally. You could be getting, you're getting the Leafs starter for the near future, and you could be getting the Leafs. I'm going to go there. 1A goalie through the rest of the season, or at least a timeshare, which is a really good spot to be. We know that Freddie Andersen has burned a lot of chances this year. And I think a lot of that might have had to do with the fact, like, he couldn't have been playing at 100% with some of the goals I've seen him let up, right? There's no way, but because the Leafs had no other option but to play him, I think they decided, 70% Freddie Andersen is better than our next best option, which also might have been true. But now it's not with Jack Campbell in the mix. So we'll see how long it takes Freddie Andersen to get back up to 100%, or at least good enough for game shape to be worth trying out again. And I think in the meantime, Jack Campbell could really establish himself as being someone that it's going to be hard to take games away from whenever Andersen is ready.
Yeah, I really hope that Campbell is fully healthy and can just go on a run right now. Like I'll go a step farther. You were saying maybe 1A rest of the season. How about maybe 1A like next season in your people in keeper leagues? Because Andersen's a UFA, and I don't see why you need to rush to give him big money, especially if you're tied up against the cap and you need to also sign Zach Hyman. So
definitely some strong value in keeper leagues for Jack Campbell. Like, this is a chance to have the potential starting goalie on a top 5 team in the league. Go get him.
Yeah, I bought a Jack Campbell Young Guns card over the summer for this exact reason. I was like waiting for it to happen. So I just thinking about this right now. I should go and see what that's selling for right now on eBay and maybe unload my Jack Campbell card. Or do I hold on and see if the value goes up? Okay. That's how you end up losing money in this whole business. Okay. So speaking of blazing goalie returns, we got to talk about UC Saros, who put up 2 great games versus Florida on Thursday and Saturday. He stopped 40 of 41 and then 47 of 48 in those 2 games. Unfortunately, Nashville got shut out, so it didn't help. But still, you can't blame UC Saros for that loss on Saturday. So Nashville's actually playing right now, and Pekka Rinne is in the net, and he's let in 2 goals on 11 shots. So a very different story with Rinne, which all that means to me is like 100% certainty, or whatever you could say, 99% certainty that UC Saros is getting back in there for next week, Tuesday, Thursday. Brian, like I said, I dropped Tristan Jarry for UC Saros. A lot of it was for this schedule and the fact that he's so hot. I can't think of any reason not to grab UC Saros right now. I think he's for sure going to be the start. Like, obviously, you don't want to project too far because things could change if he does badly, but Rinne has done nothing to indicate that he should be the starter on this team. And UC Saros has had these 2 amazing games, so I think they're just going to keep running with. I'm more confident in UC Saros getting starts rest of the way than Jack Campbell. Are you with me there?
Yeah, I am with you there. There's less competition in Nashville. And for anybody who listened last week, and I assume you did if you're still listening like an hour and a half into this week's episode, but you heard the case I made for UC Saros, right? Nashville is still a good defensive team, although they've given them like a boatload of shots their last 2 games. I'm not sure what's up with that, but Saros is getting also dragged down on his save percentage by what's happening on the penalty kill, which I think is going to fluctuate and could end up being fine while he keeps putting on a really a solid, respectable 5-on-5 performance. So yeah, even though Nashville's not going to get you a whole lot of wins, they still might do reasonably well at protecting their goalie, which might also include giving up a lot of shots from poor like low danger locations. And that would be good news to hold Saros. So Saros definitely seems like somebody who, if you're looking for volume, could be a really great add to your roster at this late stage of the game. Remember, Elon, when if you were looking to add a goalie in like week 10 of fantasy who's going to get a lot of starts, you were screwed. There's no way it happened. And now it's like there's another guy each week that's like, oh yeah, if you need some saves, why don't you go grab the Nashville starter?
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's also like New Jersey just last week, like Blackwood was in free agency in a lot of leagues because he was doing so badly. Now Blackwood is back and he's been doing well. So there's a lot of good goalie value out there. Brian, I've actually had like the worst. What's the opposite of like the Midas touch? What's the thing where everything you touch turns to like poop? Is there a word for that?
Oh, there's definitely a good joke to be made here. I'm not going to find it. But somebody could probably tweet at us.
I didn't mean to grind the conversation to a halt. You could say, I don't know.
Give me 10 more.
With Medusa. What about like you could look and whatever? I just want to keep talking now. I didn't mean to like end the show just for
Well, it's just such a great offer. You set me up so well, and I'm not gonna be able to knock it down. Okay. I don't know.
I made a big mistake.
I got nothing. My brain is just churning.
Can I just keep talking then, I guess? Or you can say anything?
Yeah, just go for it.
Is there a word for this?
No. K-Townie in the chat says no. There's no word for it.
I guess maybe there's
how about, I'll just say, I don't think so, but there should be. There should be. I'm going to think on this. I'm going to try and get back to you.
Well, I've been like Medusa, I guess, where I look at these goalies and they turn to stone. Anyways, all this to say, like, I have this one league where I added Mackenzie Blackwood, got injured. I added Petr Mrazek, got injured. I added Linus Ullmark, got injured. So now I'm sitting on Cal Peterson and UC Saros. I've been lucky. Like, I keep getting good goalies. And now, like, all these guys are, like, coming back. Like, news is that Ullmark is playing. Like, news is that Mrazek has been in practice. Blackwood just had a great game today against Pittsburgh in the 2-1 win. Like, Peterson just had a great win. UC Saros we're talking about. So now I've all of a sudden in this league, like it just goes to show like what you're saying, Brian. Like on one hand, yeah, I've been a danger to these goalies, and every time I add them, they get injured. But also, it's like now I've got 5 goalies, and we have to figure out what to do with them. I don't want all of them. I guess it's time for me to look on the trade market. Would it be crazy? Can I just ask you really quickly? How are you ranking? Or is there an obvious like maybe forget about Mrazek and Ullmark? Oh, so whatever, because we don't even know if they're coming back yet. But yeah, Ullmark, Mrazek, Blackwood, Saros, Peterson. I like them all.
Yeah, Peterson, by the way, is another great game. And like LA has been religiously 50-50, like no matter how they've both been doing pretty well. But Peterson, I wonder if there's room for him to run away with the job. Also, UC Saros, just want to throw in there. I can't remember if it made the show last week that like the Predators' good defensive numbers came with Josi and Ellis in the lineup.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, so maybe that's why. That's definitely why there was so much volume recently, and we'll see if I don't know. That would be a reason to be worried about UC Saros saying he can't handle it. Like, I don't think he's the world's greatest goalie. I don't even think he's the world's like most above average goalie. But I hope that Nashville can do well enough in front of him to still make him a reasonable fantasy roster. But he certainly doesn't look as great today as he would have 2 weeks ago, but I'm still interested. What am I even saying now? What's your takeaway from my Saros talk?
Well, I don't know. Like, if anything, like I'm saying that if he can hold up, he's more valuable now because he put up a ton of couple points with like a 47 save game versus if it was a 22 save game. So I like that.
Yeah, we'll see if he can keep it up. I think the jury's just out on that. So you can go ahead and take a chance and like see if this is a coming out party, but there's a chance it isn't.
Yeah. Okay. So we've talked about Jack Campbell and UC Saros as like exciting goalie news. More on the Detroit side of goalie news. Over in Ottawa, we've got, when I say in the Detroit side, I mean more like Bernier's injured and now Grice is terrible and there's probably no one you want. So similar situation in Ottawa right now. So Joey Decord had come in to play a couple games with Matt Murray and Marcus Hogberg out, and he was like even looking okay, but now he's out potentially for like the rest of the season. Or I think it's pretty much set that Decord is going to be out the rest of the year. So that's too bad for him. He got his first ever career win and now he's hurt. So in the meantime, the Sens claimed Anton Forsberg off of waivers, and like Philip Gustafsson has been getting into games and Kevin Mandolese has been the backup. I saw that Anton Forsberg might even play tomorrow. So like huge mess in Ottawa. I have no idea who's going to be their goalie. Maybe like, I think Matt Murray I saw is still like weeks away. maybe Hogberg is coming back soon. Like, is there any Ottawa goalie? Is this like a grab and stash situation on any of these injured guys, or should people be looking like, is Anton Forsberg good? Like in my mind, I think anytime I see the name Forsberg, I think like, oh, that guy's probably good because of Peter Forsberg and Phillip Forsberg. But I feel like Anton so far in his career has not met the same standard.
Well, you have to remember there's lots of Forsbergs who've played in the NHL and not made it. Actually, there aren't. I'm actually looking at the list of Forsbergs on Hockey TV right now. Philip and Peter and Anton are the three Forsbergs who made it all the way to the bigs, and Anton is the one of those three that just doesn't belong here. He was drafted back in 2011, 7th round by Columbus. He's already 28. I mean, I guess it's not impossible that he does well, but he's in Ottawa, which is a big strike against. And he's also only played 3 games since 2017-18 when he played 35 for Chicago, putting up a .908 save percentage. So like being okay, serviceable, but in the like he's never really appeared to be an NHL goalie in the workload he's had. So this is great news for Sens Tank Nation, I think. Otherwise, I don't see any fantasy relevance though.
I should say, like, he has played other games. Like the way you say, he's just been like sitting around waiting to play these like 3 games over the like he's been in the AHL, right? And so he actually had one AHL game this year with Belleville, and he led in only 1 goal. So I'm seeing on Elite Prospects, he's having a good year in the AHL this year in his 1 game. Last year he played 27 games, had a .905 save percentage. So it seems like he's like a capable goalie, but yeah, he's coming into a really tough situation in Ottawa, and I'm not like rushing. We're going to recommend you go grab Anton Forsberg.
Yes, so far he's an AHL goalie. He's had good numbers in the AHL this whole career. Like he had 919, 926, 927. He reminds me of like maybe he's the Jason Doig of goalies. Do you remember Jason Doig or Darren Hadar? Like these guys who had really great AHL numbers, but their game just could not translate to the NHL.
Yeah, there must be a lot of players like that. So we'll see. Hey, opportunity potentially for Anton Forsberg. I'll be happy for him if he could get a win on Monday. So over on Dallas, I just wanted to bring up that Alex Radulov now is going, the news came out that he's going to be getting the same treatment as Roope Hintz for the rest of the season. According to Rick Bowness, he's also going to be a game time decision every single game, which is like, oh my God. I have Radulov in one of my leagues.
Did Rick Bowness actually say this?
Yeah, this was like a thing. He said that he expects that Radulov to be a similar situation as Roope Hintz. They're going to, I guess they want to manage these guys to get them help. Like it makes sense in theory. Like why, this was like a theory that was thrown out actually about another Dallas guy in our beat writer interview over the summer. We're talking about Jamie Benn. They were like, you know, I'll bet you if Jamie Benn could have his like games managed and maybe like play every second game or something, he could come in hot to the playoffs like he did this year. So it's not, I'm not saying it's a bad like decision. But does
it have to be a game time decision? Like NBA teams do this, but they schedule it.
Right. So I don't know what they're doing, but all I know is it's going to make me do a lot of extra work. I have Radulov in my dynasty league. I've been like free of hints, so I haven't known the pain. But like this is a league where it's like not about ad drops. Like I just kind of have my team, but I do need to like set my roster every day. And so now it's like I'm gonna have to basically set an alarm on my phone every single game, like 5 minutes before puck drop to see the tweets about like, is Radulov in the lineup? Sounds like it's going to be a whole lot of extra work. So thanks, Rick Bowness, keeping me busy.
Yeah. What's the opposite of bonus?
What's the opposite?
That's what he's giving us.
I don't know, a fee. It's like a charge.
I don't know. Like I'm trying. Yeah.
Like I'm at work, and then they're like, Elon, you owe us money after this work day.
There you go. Okay. There's we were looking for the opposite of King Midas and the opposite of bonus.
Oh my God. Okay, so that's annoying.
Get in touch.
So Hintz and Radulov both out of the lineup today. Dallas is up 2-1 over Nashville after a period. Okay, so let's go now to St. Louis. So here's an interesting situation, Brian. Zach Sanford is on the COVID list, and apparently he hasn't even traveled with the team, so he's going to at least be away for Monday's game. Jaden Schwartz is back in the lineup. He missed some time. So the lines for Saturday's game, get this: Schenn, Schwartz, Tarasenko, classic. Wow, like that's what we've grown to know since the
St. Louis.
Yeah, like that's basically since the start of keeping Karlsson, or at least since Schenn got traded to St. Louis, you should say. So Schenn, Schwartz, Tarasenko. I love that. Then Ryan O'Reilly, David Perron, and Jordan Kyrou. So starting with Schwartz, he was pointless in his return on Friday, picked up an assist and some shot. Wait, what are an assist on shot on goal? I probably messed that up. 1 sec. Let me just see what Schwartz actually did in that game. Jaden Schwartz.
I agree, Adam. I don't really care about the gambling angle, but I care. Yeah, like okay. That'd be a great reason for the NHL to get their injury game and news and updates into proper shape. Adam in the chat is saying how like they need to fix this. And the
Yeah.
NFL has strict rules.
I like it. I mean,
It's
yeah,
nonsense.
it's very hard to play fantasy when that happens. Okay, so Schwartz was pointless in his return on Friday, but picked up an assist and 3 shots on goal on Saturday in the 5-2 win over San Jose. So nice to see him back. It seems like he's in a great spot in his classic line with Schenn and Tarasenko. Then Jordan Kyrou had been ice cold, and he'd been bumped from the top 6 for Zach Sanford. So this Zach Sanford being on the COVID list sucks for Zach Sanford, and I wish him all the best. I hope he's healthy. But great news for Jordan Kyrou. He was loving his time on the Ryan O'Reilly Perron line yesterday versus San Jose because he picked up 2 goals and an assist. O'Reilly and Perron both had 4-point games. So just all 3 of those guys took off. So Brian, so first of all, Jaden Schwartz rostered on 40% of Yahoo rosters. So I think he's an easy add. And also Jordan Kyrou is rostered in 33% of leagues, and that's been falling because he was on that big cold streak. But if both are available in your league right now, I feel like you got to go for both of them. I'm loving Kyrou. I feel like Schwartz is almost like an obvious one, but I guess in deeper leagues, maybe not. So I'm curious to know if you agree. I would take Schwartz first, but I think you probably want to make room for both of these guys because Kyrou playing with Ryan O'Reilly and David Perron is a really sweet spot. And he obviously really capitalized yesterday.
Yeah, Schwartz having a rough season so far, just a 51-point pace, but he's been reliably at least a 60-point player and as high as an 80-point player over the last several years, except for one during which he had a 6% shooting percentage. Jaden Schwartz's shooting percentage right now, 6.7%. His shot rates are down a bit, which is a bummer, but I think there's room for him to regress in a good way to get some points back that he seems to be missing in his whole season point pace. So I'd still, until further notice, consider Jaden Schwartz to be I'd consider him a 60-point pace guy. And I think, I don't know, this is crazy. I guess it's not crazy because we said it about Carter Verhaeghe, but I think I'm ready to say that Jordan Kyrou is probably in that same neighborhood. His IBP is high, his shooting percentage is high, but that all has added up to a 63-point pace. So maybe he's more like a 55-point pace guy, but still definitely worth rostering in a lot of formats. And his ice time, having started the year pretty low, he seems to have earned a top 6 role pretty consistently. The fact that he's still there says something.
Well, I mean, yeah, that hasn't really been the story. I almost feel like at this point, you can't really look at full season numbers for Kyrou. He was in the top 6, doing great for a lot of the year. Then just recently, the last couple of weeks, he went ice cold again, like I said, because he was bumped and he was playing on a line with Mike Hoffman, which is apparently now the worst thing you could have on St. Louis. So, but now he's back, right? So it's I don't know if I even want to project 60-point pace, 50-point pace for Kyrou moving forward. I'll say that until he's off, while he's with Ryan O'Reilly and David Perron, I think he's a billion-point pace. You just want him on your roster.
Well, not a billion.
I know, but what I'm saying is it's just the ceiling is high.
Yeah. So I guess what I'm saying is when he's up there, 55, 60-point pace, I think when he's not there, don't bother. Is that
right?
Fair?
Okay. Yeah. So I'll agree with that, but I'll say even maybe higher, pace.
We're just apart by several 10 billions.
Yeah.
One thing you didn't mention in St. Louis, by the way, I don't know if you've caught it, but the return of Vince Dunn as power play quarterback is upon us. He quarterbacked the 4 forward, 1 defenseman unit that split time. You had Schenn, Schwartz, and Tarasenko playing with Falk and Krug, and the other unit was Hoffman, Perron, O'Reilly, and Kyrou playing with Vince freaking Dunn. This guy just won't go away. He just keeps stealing power play minutes season after season. And to his credit, he got a power play point in the last game. So maybe this holds. This is his 3rd straight game playing significant power play minutes. So I just wonder, he's always boring. This is the thing. He's like a Matt Grishlik, except Grishlik has started delivering. Vince Dunn has never consistently delivered. He's still only 24 somehow, even though I feel like we've been talking about him taking power play minutes from Alex Pietrangelo for a decade. So just keep that in mind, I guess. If you're desperate for a power play defenseman, Vince Dunn might provide some value, but he's never been someone that you can really rely on.
Yeah. And also it's clearly St. Louis has been doing 50-50 for the last few games. We're seeing exactly around 50% for Dunn and Falk and Torrey Krug over this 3-game stretch. So, I mean, they've got the forwards to do it. They have the personnel. Like you said, it's Schenn, Schwartz, and Tarasenko on one unit, then Hoffman, Perron, O'Reilly, and Kyrou on the other. So it makes sense to play them 50-50. And in theory, you want to have fresh players out on the ice for your power play and not just have the same unit out for 1 minute and a half out of the 2 minutes. So I guess it makes sense. Yeah, good for Vince Dunn. We'll see if he could do anything. 2 points in the last game, like you said. I wouldn't be overly optimistic for the reasons you also said. Okay, so over on Vancouver, I wanted to mention how Elias Pettersson's still out. I don't even know when he'll be back. This is starting to turn into a potential Malkin situation where you have to wonder if he's going to have many games up for your fantasy season. In the meantime, the Canucks claimed the aforementioned Jimmy Vesey, who you were talking about how he wasn't able to capitalize in a good position on the Leafs. Well, the Canucks decided, let's give him an equally great position on our team. Jimmy Vesey has been playing on a line with JT Miller and Jake Virtanen, the even strength, and on the top power play with Miller, Horvat, Besser, and Quinn Hughes, at least in the 2 games versus the Habs on Friday and Saturday. And so, of course, Jimmy Vesey did a Jimmy Vesey. He had no points. He saw over 18 minutes in both of those games. So he's in a good spot, but hasn't produced, just like that. Exactly what's happened on the Leafs. Was there any interest? I already know the answer. So just tell everyone how you have no interest in Jimmy Vesey and I can move on.
I have no interest in Jimmy Vesey, and you can move on.
Okay, so then I'm going to throw out Nils Hoglander, though. He's someone that I'm kind of interested in Vancouver right now because of Pettersson being injured. So Vancouver only plays twice next week, but it's Monday, Wednesday. So you could stream Hoglander in, get those 2 games, and then swap him for someone else. He's on a 3-game point streak right now, and he's playing on the top line with Horvat and Besser. So, I mean, that's a good spot, and he's producing. So what more do you want? That's a guy you stream in if you have room on Monday and Wednesday.
Sorry, I muted myself at the wrong time. Yeah, and then you drop after Wednesday because then it's a long way until Vancouver plays again. They don't play again until the following Monday, right? So get those Monday, Wednesday games in and then move on from Nils Hoglander. And then if Pettersson's still out, move back on to Nils Hoglander.
Get him back in. And by the way, I'll throw another deep Canuck guy out there. Tyler Mott was injured for a while, so he recently returned. He's thrown 11 hits in 3 games since returning from his injury, and even scored a goal yesterday versus the Habs. So if you want your peripherals, we already talked about Mackenzie Weegar for a straight up hits play. Go grab Tyler Mott. And okay, let's end the show in Anaheim. How about Jamie Drysdale having a very successful start to his career on the Ducks? He was just drafted this past year, and in his first game on Anaheim, 1 goal and 1 assist as an 18-year-old. What a game. And it was in a win, 3-2 win for Anaheim over Arizona. So welcome to the league, Jamie Drysdale. He had no points on Saturday, but he took 3 shots and saw a decent amount of power play time again against the Coyotes. That game did not go as well. Arizona destroyed Anaheim, as you'd expect. But Brian, is Drysdale on your radar if you need a D, like maybe a good Dumba replacement? I wonder, I think you should add him. Why am I saying that? Do you have an injured player? Anyways, maybe a good Dumba maybe a good Matt Dumba replacement if you're looking for a D to fill a void on your roster for the next few weeks.
I guess so. I wouldn't go wild for the power play time, though, because he did play the bulk of it in Anaheim, but that was definitely just on the second unit. It was Drysdale and Shattenkirk on D, then Henrique Terry and Trevor Zegras on front. Like playing forward, obviously, like my brain is breaking. This is what happens at the end of the show. But the top unit was clearly Getzlaf, Silverberg, Raquel, and Comtois with Fowler quarterbacking. But that said, we know that the Anaheim power play hasn't been like wildly successful. Cam Fowler, 3 power play points in 32 games this season. Ouch. Kevin Shattenkirk, 4 power play points in 32 games this season. So you would think that the door might be open for an 18-year-old Jamie Drysdale to make a bit of a mark. I think returns are great early on, 6 shots over his first 2 games, like you mentioned, and he saw over 20 and a half minutes of ice time as an 18-year-old in his second NHL game, which tells me that the Ducks, hey, if he can show them he's ready, it looks like they're ready to give him a good shot, or hopefully they're not just seeing what they have before putting him back on the shelf. So I would love to see more from Jamie Drysdale, and I'd love to see it on the power play if you're desperate for a power play quarterback. Elon, here's my take. Okay. If I were choosing between Vince Dunn and Jamie Drysdale, I would choose Jamie Drysdale. Yeah,
me too. And obviously in your dynasty leagues, you're loving it. You probably weren't even expecting to get any games from Jamie Drysdale this year. And now you drafted him high, and this is hopefully the start of a great career. Same for Trevor Zegras, by the way, who is on a 3-game point streak from his line with Adam Henrique and Troy Terry. So this Ducks team, this year they still stink, but they're exciting, right? They've got Drysdale and Zegras, Troy Terry, Comtois. I don't know. It didn't help them avoid getting stomped by Ranta and the Coyotes yesterday, but I'll be excited to see how Anaheim does next year. I think they're going to be the type of team that at some point soon, they're going to be fun to turn on your NHL Live and watch a Ducks game with all the exciting young players, but so far not this year. Okay, so Brian, that's all I've got for you this week. I've had a blast talking through the top 20 hottest players according to Frozen Tools, and then a little news and notes at the end. I hope that the people listening to the show have enjoyed it. We'd love to get your feedback. So tweet at us at Keeping Karlsson. You could also shoot us your fantasy advice questions. If you want to support the show, we'd love that 5-star review on iTunes or Apple Podcasts or whatever it's called. You might think like, I don't feel like it, but it's like, it actually really helps us, and it's not that big a deal for you, hopefully. So if you don't mind, we would take that 5-star review. Also, if you really want to support the show and also get some hopefully very worthwhile perks, consider becoming a patron of Keeping Karlsson. We've got a really fun community going on over on Discord where we're like giving each other fantasy advice. People are able to ask questions, create their own thread on our. So we have a really cool threading thing where you make a new thread just for discussing your advice question. Plus we've got like game day chats, like a couple talk. Okay, it's a blast over on Discord. So check it out. Also, we do our Patreon cast every week, show notes for the episode. So if you're interested at all in that, check out keepingkarlsson.com/patron.
Also, if you're looking for more content, usually we stop on a player that we've mentioned that Stream Scheme, that Davey Benton over at Stream Scheme is also talking about this week. This week, we haven't touched, Elon, we haven't even said the names of any of his streamers. So you're going to want to check that out this week to know who you might be able to fit into your schedule for an extra few points in fantasy contributions. With the Stream Scheme, check the episode notes to find that.
Yeah, I love the Stream Scheme. I listen to it every week. I'm about halfway through today's episode before I had to stop and start recording this one, but I'll definitely hear it before I go to bed. All right, Brian. So I guess we can stop blabbing now. It's been fun talking to you, but it's time to cue that outro music. And why don't you go ahead and read us the credits?
All right. This episode of the Keeping Karlsson Fantasy Hockey Podcast was presented by Dobber Hockey and powered by our patrons. Logo art by Brandon Weeb. Outro music from Pat Roach. This episode was researched with help from Dobber Hockey, Frozen Pool, Dobber Prospects, Natural Stat Trick, Evolving Hockey, Cap Friendly, Charting Hockey, HockeyGoalies.org. Actually, Charting Hockey is gone. I should take that out of here. Hockey Reference, Hockey Viz, Hockey Database, Elite Prospects, Roto World, and Yahoo. I mean, NB Sports, Fantasy Edge, and Yahoo. I really gotta edit these credits.
Yeah, I guess. Well, I mean, I'm assuming that these credits are the actual show, the resources you used. Okay.
I mean, I use them all. I clearly didn't use Charting Hockey this time, but I do. I go through the mental checklist in my head before I say each one. Use that, use that, use that. It's true. Yeah. There's a lot of work to research this show.
Yeah, I'd like to think that we're one of the better researched fantasy hockey shows out there. And I guess that's why you must kind of agree if you're listening like a couple hours into this episode. So I'm going to let everyone go home now. Good luck in fantasy this week. A lot of us are in our playoff stretches needing a big week this week. So good luck to all of you. Unless some of you are against each other, then it's kind of tricky to wish you the best of luck. But I don't know. I hope everyone has a good time either way. Thanks for listening. And Brian, why don't you take us out of here with your catchphrase?
Yeah, I hope everybody has a great week next week because fantasy hockey is for everybody.
Yeah,
or I should everyone.
Oh,
that's the catchphrase.
I shouldn't have said your catchphrase. It's like our catchphrase. I believe in this catchphrase also.
Weird way to throw it away.
Well, you used to say "keep on keeping Karlsson." That one I was happy to say, go say your catchphrase.
Yeah.
But this one seems more like an inclusive one that I'm proud to be a part of. I don't know if
you weren't proud of the last one.
I wasn't not proud of it, but it wasn't like I'm going to be devastated if people think that that's not I'm not associated with that.
I'm really glad we ditched it. We got rid of it just in time.
Well, I just traded for him, so I'm hoping for a second win.
Well, I don't recommend you keep him if the Cupful Tier 1 turns into a keeper league.
Let's go.
What?
Erik Karlsson.
Oh, you're showing your jersey.
It's good. You'll see. He scored a goal a couple weeks ago. It was a good power play goal.
Why was yours so close at hand?
Because I was wearing it earlier today.
Oh, nice.
After my trade went through, I wanted to try it on.
Actually?
Yeah.
Did you wear it anywhere?
No, it's around the apartment.
Oh,
I was going out for the day, and then I was going to wear it, and then I put on my jacket, and it's it was stupid. It was just it was coming down lower than the bottom of my jacket, so it looked dumb. So that's why I changed into this cool tier, a Cupful playoff pool, whatever we call it, Keeping Karlsson playoff pool winning sweatshirt instead.
I love just that you cycle between Keeping Karlsson and Erik Karlsson merchandise.
Yeah, it's a Sunday. It's just a chill day. I want to, it's podcast day. So I try to wrap my whole life around podcast day.
Good for you.
And now the rest of the day, the rest of the night will be editing the podcast. So it truly is podcast day.
Get in the mindset.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Patty. I just said Patty because she just said goodbye before I had to go down to replug in my computer. Shane, Adam, Kate. Yeah, it's been a really fun chat, like always.
And Eric shared that he did share. I actually meant to mention, I'm pretty sure the algorithm, and this is without knowing, Eric says
Okay.
he's explained how it works, but I feel like it uses a player's career numbers as a baseline. So like it's not just
No.
like, yeah, I
Okay,
think
but
it's who's deviating the most from their career numbers. It's
but
like
every
that's part of it. That's part of it.
I don't think so, because every single time it's like someone who has more than like a point per game is like, it's not like all of a sudden like some nobody has 2 points in 4 games, and because that deviates from his numbers, he shows up on that list. Like it just seems to me like when I
I'm
look
pretty
down the list of the hottest players, it's always the people on the best hot streaks.
okay. Well, maybe the cold streaks work that way.
Okay, hot formula. Must have played in the last 7 days, at least 1 point in last 2 games. If player qualifies, run through the algorithm. Starting today, moving backwards, check the game in question in the previous 2. If total points in those last 3 games is less than 1, end. Otherwise, move backwards 1 game and restart algorithm. Okay, so yeah, it's nothing about the former, anyways, for the hot streaks.
Okay. But for the cold streaks, I think it is.
Okay.
Because otherwise, like you'd have like all these nobodies on cold streaks.
Yeah, that would make more sense. Yeah, for cold streaks for sure.
By the way, bonus player for anyone still listening, like for a deep defenseman,
Okay.
Sean Walker. Elon, I mentioned him to you as a guy I might stream in for Friday, Sunday. He scored his first goal of the season tonight.
Wow.
Yep. 8 full points.
4 shots also.
Yeah.
So did you stream him in?
No.
Did you win your matchup?
No.
Would you have won if you streamed him in?
No.
Oh, okay. So it's not that bad. It's not like you made a terrible mistake.
Yeah, I can live with it.
Sorry. You were tilting about Pacioretti, how you could have had him in a trade and you didn't.
Yeah.
Now do you feel better that he's injured?
Well, it might have cost me the bye. Like this was I'm second. I was playing someone who's now tied with me in record, and I think they have more couple points on the season. So I'm a little, and let's see, did the other team there's 3 teams at 6-2. I'm at 7-1. Did Pasta La Vista? Oh, they're gonna win by 0.4. Oh, against the other team that's 6-2. So one of them was gonna catch me this week. They're up by 0.05.
That's wild. Do they have games left? Like any of them playing in Nashville or Dallas?
Oh yeah, it's over. The team that I'm playing next week that's 6-2 is going to be the team that I'm playing in 2 weeks that's 6-2.
So you've got your work cut out for you.
I've got my work cut out for me.
Well, good luck. Well, at least you don't have an injured Max Pacioretty to deal with. You know who does?
You, not you.
No, you.
We do.
No, Ben does. And I
Ben
match up
does.
against him next week, so I'll bet you he's kind of annoyed. Actually, today was like a really good, I call it like day, what would you call it? Day 0 or day -1 of my matchup for next week? What do you call the day before the matchup?
Day negative. Oh.
Okay. So
I'd call it day -1.
Okay. So it's been a great day -1 for me because Patches is hurt and that's his best player. And Bobrovsky had a bad game for Florida today, and Driedger had a really good game on Saturday. So I'm hoping maybe Driedger gets the start on Tuesday and Ben has Bobrovsky. How good would that be? Sorry, Ben, but that would be great for me. So I need to win more than Ben. So like next week, I'm not going to feel bad for Ben.
You never got to go off about Goss Despair.
Oh, well, whatever. So people could follow us on Twitter and they can hear.
Well, I just want to make the point that why is Alan Vigneault still a coach? How about that?
Philly had a great year last year.
Yeah, and they've been trashed this year.
Yeah, but aren't you
at some point you got to hang it on the coach, especially when they bench a player saying he's poor defensively and you give up 18 goals in 3 games without him. Maybe you suck.
So, like, don't you normally say that you don't want to blame the coach when the team's doing badly because of bad goaltending? Like, wouldn't we be firing him because Carter Hart and Brian Elliott have been so terrible lately? Or are you going to put it all on like not playing Goss Despair?
Well, I'm just saying, like, how can you like? It's weird. It's a weird hill to die on.
He doesn't like defense. Him. If you're the coach, you're allowed to like not like a player. He's watching him play. He's being like, I don't like this. I don't like what I'm seeing.
Yeah, I just like he's getting nothing out of this team that should be a lot better.
I mean,
and like yes, goaltending depth. No, every week.
You were complaining about him before the Goss Despair stuff. Now it's just because he's benching your cupful player.
It's helped me realize.
Oh, okay. So yeah, fire him. Okay, fine. Philly could probably use a jolt right now.
Yeah, exactly.
They should fire their goaltending coach.
Can't fire the team.
They need someone to teach Carter Hart how to get back in. It's like he needs a therapist or something, like a performance coach. You know the show Billions? There's Wendy, who like all the stockbrokers go to talk.
I don't know.
So there's a show called Billions, and then it's about all ththese stockbrokers, and then there's this woman Wendy who's like the performance coach, and her whole job is just like when they're feeling bad, she like pumps them up, and then they get out there and they like do such a great job doing their stocks. So you need a Wendy to talk to Carter Hart and like pump him up, get his confidence back.
Okay. So who's that going to be?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I don't know who the current Philadelphia.
Could you write a letter
to Philly?
Yeah.
Well, maybe they're working on it. Like, what do you do? Like, Carter Hart's like a kid. He's having a rough time. It might be a lot to handle, like when.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure it's really hard.
Like he should, he should like have a call with like Henrik Lundqvist or something, like Lundqvist could tell me, I've had some cold stretches over my career and here's what I did. Or Martin Brodeur. Like they need to like get him a one-on-one call, buy him a cameo or something from some all-star goalie.
Maybe Cal Peterson.
That's true. Well, Cal Peterson hasn't really had many cold streaks. Like I feel like Cal Peterson would take the call and be like, "Yeah, I don't know what you're going through, man. I'm always pretty consistent, actually."
But he did such a good cameo for our Fantasy
true.
Hockey Life pals. I'm sure, like he got me.
I'm sure he'll do it. I don't know if it'll help. He'll probably like hurt his feelings even more. He'll be like, "Man, Carter, like I have a lot less of a pedigree than you, and I'm doing so much better over these past few years. Like, I wonder why everyone thinks that you're like the goalie of the future and not me. Like, when's the last time I've been on a culture like this? And I've been on LA. They're not even a good team, and I'm still doing fine."
These are all great ideas.
Okay.
Let's send a cameo to Carter Hart.
From Lundqvist.
Yeah.
Or from Cal Peterson.
From someone.
Lundqvist is still practicing. Lundqvist is trying to get back in this season.
He's not getting back this season.
Unfortunately for him, like Washington does not need him. Like Vanacek is so good. That's so crazy. I'll bet you we could go back.
Vanacek's
I'm almost
not that good.
I mean, why not? What do you mean?
His numbers aren't great.
Let me check this. I've been under the impression this whole time that he's good.
I don't think he's good.
1 sec.
Like I think he's okay.
So he has a 911 save percentage on the season. He shut out Buffalo. Okay, let's not count that. His last game against the Rangers. His last 2 games have been really good. And I don't know, as a backup, I'd rather have him than Lundqvist.
Against Buffalo, he's a 947 goalie.
Oh, and then against all the other teams it comes
Let's see if I can do this. Oh, against New Jersey, he sucks. So I'll include those numbers. So take out his Buffalo games and I don't know. I can't do this.
Whatever. Anyways, it's not like a fair way to do it because like you could have just a couple bad games really bring down those numbers when you've only played 22 games on the year.
Yeah,
I like your quality start percentage. I think is the best way to judge it. Here's like 55%.
Yeah, good, he's right? Okay. He's fine. Like that's okay.
Like what I was going to say was like I recall when like the Lundqvist injury or whatever heart surgery thing was announced. I think you even said on the show like who's the backup now? Like Vitek Vanacek, like this is going to be a disaster. I
actually
for them.
just assumed it was going to be Craig Anderson. Oh wait, no, he was.
It might have been before he was signed, or maybe we were mentioning like that guy that used to always be there. Yeah, Phoenix Copley. But you kept on wanting me to say Copley. I'm like, I think it's Copley.
Still don't know.
I know it's Copley.
That's one of those guys where I accidentally I forget which one. You said it on the page on the patron cast.
Yeah, once you've thought about it too much, you'll just never get it right again. What was that word you said also earlier in the episode?
Superlative.
Yeah, you said superlative.
Superlative.
It's like a super.
Oh my god.
It's so funny.
You said most hot.
We have fun. Yeah. Because I'm a man of the people. Saying most hot isn't embarrassing. That's just like dumbing it down. Which is like, when I say dumbing it down, I mean dumbing it down to my brain.
Dumbing it down so I can be with the other people.
Yeah, it's like
I'm a man of the people. I dumb it down you're like so they can understand me. Is what you just said.
I try to be a man of the people. You try to like sound extra smart by saying fancy words like superlative and trying to be like, oh, you just probably aren't familiar with this term. But I'm going the opposite way and saying most smart, more better, whatever I said. More good.
It was most hot.
Most hotter.
Oh my
god. Today was most hot in Toronto. It was very nice weather today. Okay.
Today was more hot in Ottawa.
That's nice. Okay, I guess we should stop. Patty's like, I said bye, but I guess she like started chatting. Come chat with us. Or Brian probably has to go.
I'm gonna go.
I wanted to chat with Patty recently.
So bring her on.
No, she didn't want to. She was shy, but which is fair. But like, I don't want to call you out, Patty. But like, I'd love to talk to you sometime. We'd have a great time. Get you. We could talk about all your couple experience. You've been around for so long. But anyway.
Oh yeah, that's true.
All right, bye everybody. Thanks, Eric, again.
By the way, thanks. Opposite of Midas touch. There it is. Adam puts it together.
By the way, thanks, Eric, for the awesome tool. I was like thinking yesterday of like, what should I I'm trying to like structure each episode around something. And then I just like occasionally like the hot streaks on Frozen tools. It's perfect. It's great. Okay. I guess now we're just killing time. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Okay. How do I actually stop this?
Oh my God. Every time.
Okay, here it is.
Is it not the same button in the same place?
No, it's the same button. It's on one of my browser windows, and I have to find the tabs. I have a million tabs open now because I keep on opening tabs during the show. But I found it, and I'm pressing it right now.